Hare Krishna, my friends. All glories to Ayendra Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura, Bhaktivinoda Thakura, all the previous acharyas, back to Lord Brahma, Lord Sri Krishna. All glories to Lord Nityananda, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So today, my battery on my tablet is about to run down, so I may not be able to actually show this physically the video on screen. So please, everyone, if you're able to, open up a separate tab, and you can open up the music video in a separate tab so you can see and follow along as we're discussing it. So this will be helpful and useful. This way, even if it goes off on the tablet side, you guys can still see what's happening and see what's being referred to. This may end up needing to be a two-part video because there's so much involved, but we'll see how it goes. So welcome Radha Abhiram Das, welcome Vrinda Dasa, thank you for joining us. And so, okay, so I'm going to immediately go into the background. Welcome, Presley. Thanks for joining us as well. Like I said, if everybody can open up a separate tab so that you can see the music video as we're going along. My tablet's about to run out of batteries, so for whatever reason, Radha and Krishna arranged this today to play out this way. So we go with their arrangement. Hare Krishna, welcome Nitai. Let a few more people pour in here before we get started. So I'm going to go through the really quick background on this topic for anybody who may not be familiar. And we're also going to go into how this particular song was discovered and how this came to be. So in 2017, there was a phase in my devotional life where I was going really deep in my internal moods. So I was interacting with certain other devotees at a distance online, some other individuals, and what I was noticing was I was finding very interesting things about my eternal relations with these other people, this other particular individual I was talking to. And it was so intense and vivid to me that this individual was actually one of my eternal older brothers in this type of a relationship with me. Not necessarily my actual older brother, and this is our eternal dynamic, or relationship dynamic. But what ended up happening was I got into a phase where I was really, it turned where this person actually ended up being very aggressive towards me and just very unkind out of nowhere, to where things had gone really wonderful and then things had changed pretty much overnight. So the two first videos we had covered, Madonna Open Your Heart and the Belinda Carlisle Heaven is a Place on Earth, those had been known about since about 2016. And there was a phase, and so before I had even covered any of these, there was a phase in 2017 there that this particular song came up to me in. And this is, I would say, the third that I was able to actually verify and prove and actually confirm in so many ways. Now, Andrew Taylor, Kakadi Das, Ishvar Nandini, and Robin Cloud, all of these people, as well as you, Radha Abhiram Das, all of us have actually had a very recent experience with this particular one over the last couple weeks. This 444 number has been appearing everywhere, 444, quadruple 4, all over the place. So just continually bombarding. So what happened was I ended up actually bypassing the song. This particular song was the one that led to the discovery of the one that was revealed to Andrew Taylor, the song 7 by Prince, which talks about the 7 false devotion ideologies. It was directly related to this song. So he sent me a message, and he said, you know what, I'm really interested in this encoded music topic. Can you send me some information about some that might be encoded but are not provable publicly? And I was like, sure. There's actually a lot that I know of that are directly encoded that aren't publicly provable as such, because they're catered to certain people, certain moods and things like that. So I showed him this one, this particular one, and showed him what the symbolism was. And immediately after he watched this, he immediately sent me the link to this one that he said, hey, this could probably be encoded right here, the Prince 7 one. So I watched it, and sure enough, that was it. And so we ended up covering that one first before this one. Now, what's really interesting about this one, and I'll pay attention to this as you're watching and going along and hearing the sounds as well, you'll actually get a very interesting insight into who you are eternally based on how this song registers to your ears and mind. So Um, this particular song's encoding and topic is specifically about how to read numbers, so 0 to 9, divine decimal system, in devotional consciousness, relating to the eightfold daily pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That is particularly what this song is about. And this will be shown as we go along today. So, knowing this, before we go in, keep this in mind, because you'll likely find an experience where you'll really love the song, you'll not know what to make of it one way or the other, kind of so-so, whatever, or your mood will very much be you can't stand the song at all. It annoys you. And these actually are very significant factors about this particular one. So, the going right in, the reason this was needing to be covered was that Sri Radha, she's been basically really pushing me to cover it for so long, but I've been hesitant because I've been needing to figure out how to publicly prove this one. This has been my challenge with it for like months and months on end. They've just been telling me, oh, just present the thing, for crying out loud, just do it, don't hold back, don't wait around. But I've been like, wait, I've got to actually be able to verify this and go point by point to show people what is in this first before I just present it. But they've been very urgent about it, and it's been week after week they've just been pushing me to do it. So so this number 4, okay, if you guys are all familiar with the previous post, the lead into this, what the different numbers mean, so 0 to 9, you'll have a good background in terms of what we're going into. Now, the first thing you need to understand about numbers first, before we start going into this, is the 0 to 9 system is created by Radha and Krishna. The decimal system is a divine system, or the 5 times 2 system, the multiples of 10, okay? So the 1 and 0 system. This is actually an eternal system, created by them and used by them, eternally so. And that is why things within matter work this way and operate according to this system, and why the number pi is what it is, etc. So numerology is actually much simpler than many people make it out to be, specifically devotional numerology, understanding numbers and devotional consciousness. It is far simpler than most assume. So it works like this, basically. There's 8 time periods of the day, okay, that eternally go on in a cycle. So basically you'll go through 8 time periods of a day with Radha and Krishna every day in paradise and transcendence. The next day you'll wake up, you'll go through the same exact set of pastimes again and again and again. But within those sets of pastimes, there's infinite varieties and little tweaks and little slight differences that take place. But the same pastimes are going on. And that is Goloka Vrindavana. But each time they happen, it's as if they've never happened before. They're ever fresh and ever new. So it never gets boring, and these activities never get dull. So you have a constancy of activities that eternally go on in this cycle, with infinite varieties and infinitely unique individuality within those pastimes, with Radha and Krishna as the center of focus. And this is how everything works, both transcendentally and materially. Now, when we go into this, keep this in mind. The understanding the numbers is understanding these 8 time periods of the day relating to Radha and Krishna and their forms. This is how numbers are understood. So instead of looking at, instead of trying to look at a number line or a number circle of a bunch of numbers as, okay, what do these numbers all together mean combinedly and all this other stuff, focus on each individual number and what those numbers specifically mean by themselves, okay? And they always mean specific things, eternally. And then you can see what the number line or circle or whatever actually is referring to in terms of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And the number system is always referring to this eightfold daily cycle of pastimes. So it isn't complicated. It's easy to grasp. It's just challenging to actually internally meditate fully on these things. That's where the challenge comes in. But actually understanding the gist of it in summary is not difficult. So without any further ado, let's go straight into it. Okay? Now I'll hold it up first for this first part of the video. I hope that it stays on long enough to continue on, but I hope you all have tabs open just in case. It'll be easier for you to stop and pause as desired. So here we go. Now, okay, first we're going to pause it here. Very first thing we want to understand is why they encoded through this artist named Whigfield. Why specifically did they choose her? Why did they use her for this, even though she's not consciously practicing Krishna consciousness? So this is the first thing we need to cover, okay? Why her? Why not somebody else? And why these names did they choose to use? So when we look at the name, first of all, they always choose names for very significant reasons. Okay, musicians' names. In this case, Whigfield is referring to the material world, and Whigfield in the sense of putting on various wigs, basically coverings over the head. Okay, this is correlating to various types of intellectual coverings, various types of thinking process coverings, various types of identity coverings we use. And this is what the Whigfield, the field of wigs, the field of external disguises and costumes. Okay, so the power is shutting off, so we're just going to have to discuss it freelance like we did with the first one. So let me go down here now into this video popped up. And if anyone could let me know, if any of you don't have it popped up, please let me know, and then I will I'm going to do a part 2 to this video also. So one with just like this explanation, and then the other one with me actually physically pointing at stuff. So, but most of it can be understood even without that. So, the off-limits name. What do we see on the logo? We see the line on top, and then we see the circle and then the dot in the middle. So, in the number pi, Radha draws the circle, Krishna draws the line, and the Jivatma is the dot. Okay? Inside. So 3 is Radha, Krishna, and the Jivatma united. The dot is the living entity himself. The 1 is Krishna. The 4 is intimacy, etc. The number 4 is always referring to this intimacy between us and Radha and Krishna, goddess and God. So wherever you see the number 4, that is always what's being referred to. So it's referring to the enclosures where the intimate interactions between us, Radha and Krishna, and their associates take place in Goloka Vrindavana and spilling over into matter. Okay, so when you see the number 4, don't complicate it, don't confuse yourself, just look at it and understand that that's what it always means. And then of course that translates to Krishna's expansions, the Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. That expands into the 4 Varnas, that expands into everything that has to do with 4, comes from that original initial intimacy with Radha and Krishna, and things spill out from there. Okay, 4 yugas, etc. Now, of course, she chose these label producers titled Off Limits. That's what they're calling their production company here, because this information is off limits. This is hidden information, but it's not off limits for those who actually want it. It's off limits to anyone not within the Vrindavana mood. Basically, it's off limits to the consciousness that is not attuned or attentive to such things, because Sri Radha is the hidden supreme. Krishna is the upfront supreme. Everybody knows Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Very few know that Sri Radha is actually the one who controls him, though. And even those who are informed of this still don't actually accept that as the fact. They accept it more as like, okay, that's a mood, that's a feeling, but it's not the actual case. That is actually the case. And those who understand that it is actually the case will understand what she's encoding here. And once again, anyone not familiar with the topic, she speaks in the form of codes for this reason and for many others, but specifically for the reason that she's eternally the hidden supreme, and she's eternally arranged with Krishna to reveal to the devotees of this specific mood things about her only to them and amongst themselves. Okay, whereas everyone else, they're going to keep seeing Krishna as the center of focus. Krishna is the supreme, him the one who controls Sri Radha. They're going to see it that way. Everyone else will. Okay, and this is their setup between them that they've agreed on eternally. So, so now we are 10 seconds into the video, and then the la's start beginning. So la, she says la so many times to begin it. Now, most people would think this is just a little catchy tune thing, but la is actually referring to Lalita Devi. Okay, and you see the red color associated with this immediately. Now, the first thing you see in the video is a fruit. Okay, she's holding an apple in her hands. This is referring to the transcendental fruit, which is being hidden. So it's being put in a basket here and covered over. So this transcendental fruit is put in the basket while she's saying la, la, la. Now, Lalita is extremely significant in all these pastimes. She very much controls a lot of the interactions that take place between Radha and Krishna and the living entities throughout the day. And she's known for being very fiery, so her color is associated with red. She appears with Sri Radha in the form of Gadadhara Pandita, when Lord Chaitanya appears with the red garments also in a disguised form, wanting to get the mood back that Krishna has taken from them. playfully. Okay, so the transcendental fruit is being hidden in the basket under the modes of goodness and passion. So she covers. Okay. So there we go. Covered with red and white, the modes of passion and goodness are covering the transcendental fruit, which is hidden. And the next thing that appears is the logo, forever, with the number 4. Now, in music, people use this number 4 a lot. They use this thing quite often, where the number instead of the F is used, because it basically it moves things up in musical charts in terms of brings it higher up. So it's a very practical thing that musicians do. But Sri Radha is cleverly using it for her own purposes. Now, you'll all recall the red, gold, and green reference in the song Kama Chameleon, or Karma Chameleon, rather, by the Culture Club, which is going to be the next encoded song we cover next week. Now, this red, gold, and green is the first 3 colors that will pop up here after the infinity symbol. Now, this infinity symbol, you'll see pop up throughout the video, which is also the modern symbol for the number 8. And this came to be because this is referring to the Ashtakali Alilas, the 8-fold daily pastimes which infinitely happen eternally. That symbol is also referring to the sine wave, which operates the astrological cycles, the cycles of the world, etc. So that cycle is referred to as infinity, and it also correlates to the 8 Ashtasakis, the 8 goddesses. In Sanskrit, the symbol for 8 is slightly different than this, but the point being that that 8 is correlating with this infinity principle of these 8-fold daily pastimes. So it transfers over into the modern symbol of infinity. Okay? Now, first thing that happens is 2 taps on the hair, on the or what you could call the wig, but this is her actual hair. It's actually blonde colored. So there's 2 taps, and remember, as you recall from the song Open Your Heart, what is the head always referring to, and the hair on the top of the head? It's referring to the top of the top. So basically what's heading everything else underneath. So blonde hair is referring to, once again, Sri Radha's goldenness, the golden color. So she taps it twice to indicate Radha Krishna, but that she's actually the one in control of the situation. Okay. Now look, her hair tie is red. Okay, once again, Gadadhara Pandita, Lalita Devi, and this is actually holding her hair in place. Lalita Devi is the one who actually directs Sri Radha and holds her and guides her through a lot of her pastimes. Once again, this reference is here. Now the 3 colors you're looking at, what are the 3 colors we're seeing? Red, gold, and green. No surprises here. So you'll notice in all these encoded songs, there's a continuation of references. So in Block Party, there was the actual literal chameleon, which was red, gold, and green colored, that crawled out of the pants at the end of the music video. It's a very interesting little last piece. In Karma Chameleon, he sings specifically, "Lovin' would be easy if your colors were like my dreams, red, gold, and green." And here we see, once again, the actual colors of red, gold, and green. Anyone not familiar with this is referring to Rati Devi and Kamadeva. So Rati Devi's garments that she wears and her skin color, and Kamadeva's interactions with her, Kamadeva's skin being green. Sri Radha is the mother of millions of Kamadevas. And these Kamadevas are her factual literal sons, eternally in Goloka, her hidden sons, and their skin color is greenish. Rati Devi's skin color is golden because she's the expansion of Sri Radha, and she expands as the wives of these Kamadevas, okay? Or provides them with Jivatmas who are in the role of Rati Devi. Now you'll notice to the right of her, and we will be moving along much faster, but initially there's a lot to cover, so stay with me here. So to the right of her head, there's a V symbol. Now this is also referencing the womb. Now this V symbol is, once again, golden, because what did we just say? And what's inside of it? What color do you see inside of the V shape there? Green. Sri Radha is the literal mother of millions of Kamadevas. So you're seeing green inside of Sri Radha's womb, symbolized here. V is also referring to Venus. So the Venus principle, Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, and affection, emanates from Sri Radha. Okay? We're seeing this all immediately in the first few seconds of the video. Okay? So now, and okay, of course, the shirt that she's wearing is what? It's red and white, referring to, once again, that emphasis of the red color and the purity factor, also the white behind it. So passion and goodness. Okay? Now she wiggles her fingers at about 27, 28 seconds in. She wiggles the fingers like this. Now that's indicating pay attention to the fingers and what's going to be shown here. Now this whole song is basically like a nursery rhyme theme style encoding by Sri Radha. She's encoded it this way because it's going to cater to living entities who are eternally little kids in form or in personality type. You're going to be especially attracted to this song if that's your eternal svarupa or one of your eternal preferences. you're going to be very likely to highly appreciate this song because it's written for this particular audience. Just like in the material world on the temporal side, adults would kind of like shrug their heads, oh, the kids are watching Sesame Street on TV or whatever, but the kids are like really into it, right? They're like, oh yeah, they're like going along with the rhymes and loving it. This is the same thing that's going on here with this encoding. So you'll notice right off the get-go that this encoding will either kind of irritate you, bug you, you won't be much interested, or you'll really, really be into it. Pay attention to that mood towards this. It has a lot to do with you and who you are. Okay? So, and she set it up this way on purpose. So the funny thing is I talked to Ishvarnandini about this, and she mentioned she was very irritated by this song, okay? And so what I found very comical about that was that for me, it was one I absolutely love it. But she mentioned, yeah, this just really bugs me and stuff, and I was like, well, that actually says a lot, because the discussions we've had, that's very much what's been indicated to me from her, is she's very much more of a mature type figure. Mature not in the old sense, but in like a youthful mature sense, but like in an adult mature sense. You know what I mean? So I was like, that's really intriguing, actually. And so she knows about that, and you all need to know about this too. But here we go. Love in the air, it's here and it's where. I'm singing along to the words from a song. Now, which song is that? That's Harinama Sankirtana. What she's talking about is the names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which we're eternally singing in Goloka every day. And Sri Radha herself is also singing this. So she's singing her and Krishna's names throughout the day, either directly or in all the words that they're using to talk and interact with each other. They're all referring to each other throughout the entirety of the day. Okay? Now, listen to what she says and watch the symbolism as she's walking out. Now, check out the path color. The path color is, once again, the grayish color. On the side, you have the golden, and then you have the green. Very key thing to pay attention to. A lot of this I'll have to skip over because there's so much here. I want to just cover the full summary so you guys get the gist of what's going on here. You guys can then go back, and every time you hear this or see it, you can just see more and more every time. But I'm going to give you the gist, okay? I really must sing. And then she says, I fall into spring. And then there's 2 heart dots on the sides. So, once again, that's referring to, whenever you see 2. So we understand that the number 1 is always referring to Krishna and or the living entity. Well, let's back up for just a quick second. 0 is always referring to Srimati Radharani and her all-encompassing pervasiveness over and around everyone and everything, including Sri Krishna. Okay? She hides herself inside and behind the number 0, basically because most people in the universe and world assume and associate the number 0 with absence of something, or nothing being there. So what is a better place to hide for her personally than behind the number 0 itself? It's a very clever thing that she does, actually. But she makes this accessible to us to understand that she does this. And she does that so that people subconsciously associate her with not being there so that they don't see her, because she's hidden, and she likes to stay hidden. Okay? Except for certain people she wants to reveal things to. I cling to the day because today is a lifetime. Now, why does she cling to the day? Remember what we just talked about? The eightfold daily pastimes. Every day in transcendence is the eightfold time periods. She clings to the day because today is a lifetime. Literally, every day in Goloka is literally a lifetime. It's that full of activities and full of experience and excitement and wonder that every day in Goloka, because it's eternal beyond time and space, is literally a lifetime. And this is very literal. This is not an exaggeration at all. So pay attention to this also. Now, what's very interesting is with encodings like this, Sri Radha is able to, and Krishna also, they're both able to talk through individual Jivatmas who are still conditioned, okay, who are basically singing and thinking that they're singing or portraying some other message, right, or something like that, something that's just mundane. And they, in most cases, they have absolutely no idea that Radha and Krishna are using them in this way. No idea whatsoever. And so this is very intriguing when you look at it. So, but you'll always find that there's a reason why, and there's a connection between this person they're encoding through and something to do significant with devotional service, them being in contact with Krishna devotees in this life or a past life, something along those lines. There's always a connection, okay? Like in Belinda Carlisle's case, she was in contact with George Harrison and had him play music for her song Leave a Light On For Me, which was her connection with him, and there were other connections too that led her into that connection, and he's a devotee, recognized by Prabhupada himself. So that's not something to be overlooked. He played the guitar for her, and she had it played through the phone into her song. Belinda Carlisle. So that's just one example. The singer from Culture Club, he specifically, his song, which is encoded, which became world famous, was done the same year he came to Krishna consciousness as a devotee, and 1871 is referring to Bhaktivinoda's appearance and his administration of Jagannath Puri and all these other things like that. So those are just some examples I'm trying to give you guys. So with Madonna, there's also a reason why she was encoded through, and Block Party, their bands, there's a reason they were encoded through, and you always can see why when you look into this. But that's kind of a topic we'll get into later, because people will want to know that, well, why her, and this and that. So but immediately while she's doing this, there's two girls that appear on the sides now. Okay, now these two are we're dealing with 5 eternal rasas. Okay, 5 rasas. So the 5 transcendental rasas are led by first Parakiya rasa. Now Whigfield's the main singer character. She is signifying and representing Parakiya rasa, leading the other rasas. These first 2 rasas that appear next to her, okay, in these embodied forms, are referring to Sakya rasa, friendship rasa with Krishna, and parental rasa, okay? And they appear on the 2 sides of her like this, smiling and dancing. Now watch how they move as she's going along. Watch what she sings next. I want to make it right. Now think about that for a minute. What does most people assume? I want to make it right. Well, she always layers things in triple, quadruple meanings here. So when she says, I want to make it right, Sri Radha is referring to immediately, she wants to make everything right between us and her, and Sri Krishna, naturally. The second meaning is she actually literally wants to make it right in Goloka Vrindavan. She wants to make a right turn. But there's a lot of times she has to get past people and hide and sneak, because so that they don't know she's actually running back home from having intimate interactions with Krishna, so that they assume she was just always there to begin with. So she wants to make it right on the pathway back to her house in Yavata, okay? And this is what she's signifying here. Now you'll notice she's grabbing both of the V's, right? And when she says, I want to make it right also, when we're looking at the altar, where is Sri Radha always standing? She's always standing on the left side of Krishna, but visually speaking, to our vision, she's on the right side. Now saying, I want to make it right, she's also hiding for those who are in a specific mood towards her to pick up on this. She actually wants to make it to the other position where Krishna is standing now in relationship to our vision. I want to make it right. And I kid you not, Sri Radha has appeared so far in 2 dreams, and this is significant related to this. This is why I'm relaying this. At least 2 dreams that I distinctly remember, maybe more, but where she actually appeared on the other side of Krishna on the altar. And was looking at me in that position. So this is very significant. Her saying, I want to make it right. This is, basically she's saying, I want to make it, and this is referring to the right brain, your intuition. I want to make it to the right side of your brain, right side of your consciousness, this position in relationship to Krishna, in your consciousness, in your relationship with me. That's what she's telling all of us right here. And so many other references. But basically that's at least three or four reasons she wants to go right and is saying this right now. And then keep my love inside your heart. And let me hold your hand real tight. Now naturally that lyric is understood, the direct meaning. And of course you guys can understand the layers of meanings beyond that. And you'll notice how the 2 other rasas, they keep going behind her to where it's Parakiya rasa you're only seeing, and then the other 2, they keep coming out, going behind her, coming out. So Parakiya rasa is leading all the activities of Goloka Vrindavana. So if you're in the friendship relationship, the parent relationship, or the other ones, which will pop in soon here, you're going to be getting led by those in Parakiya rasa and what's going on throughout the daily interactions. And this is what is being shown visually to you. Okay? 3. Okay? Now we are, yep, so they popped in, the other 2 rasas popped in, or the people who are representing these other 2 rasas have popped in between those other 2 rasas. Now you'll notice which ones are which by the clothing they're wearing and the types of belts they're wearing, okay? So the shorter girl in the blue, she was representing the Sakya rasa, the friendship rasa. The taller girl in the with the green wrapping, the yellow and green, was representing the parenthood rasa, okay? And we'll explain why this is too. So the blue and white is associated with Balarama, who runs the Krishna's cowherd boyfriends and things. The yellow and green is associated with Nanda Maharaja and the source of Krishna's sustenance, okay, which is once again associated with that green, that yellowness, that motherly affection and parental affection. And then the two last ones that pop in are now servant-master relationship in Goloka and neutral relationship, okay? The servant-master relationship is the one that has the belt on. So the ones that are very specific in nature, okay, like I'm specifically this person doing these particular services, etc., that are active, are the ones with the belt wraps on, okay? So then you see the one who is wearing the belt wrap with the lines and stripes on it. This person is representing the master-servant dynamic, okay? And then the one in neutrality, representing the neutral dynamic, basically a passive relationship with Krishna in Goloka, is the one without the belt mark on. Now notice how they move now. Now we're dealing with 5, okay? Now watch. And now this is very interesting. So we got the 5 rasas popped up now. I'll love you forever. And then she goes, she does that 7 times exactly while holding the infinity 8 symbol, Ashta symbol, in gold, shining gold, referring to Sri Radha's skin when she's exuding the light from her form, okay? So she does this 7 times. Now she's really wanting us to pay attention to this point right here. So she says this 7 times, and you guys remember what the number 7 means, right? 7 means, 7 is referring to information, water, the flow of information, and communication, all at the same time, okay? So 7 relating to these Ashtakali Leelas, eternal past. And then at the end of the 7, watch what she does. She points up to the top right of herself here. She points at that V again. You'll notice this right at the end of 7. So 7, boom. Okay, she points at the V, the right side of the V again, which represents Sri Radha's transcendental womb. Okay. And then we go through the little butterfly symbolism on the nose. It's referring to a lot of different things, actually. The butterfly effect is one of them. And then, of course, the dual, the crossing of the eyes, looking at focusing on what's between the eyes, the center of the eyes internally when you're meditating and stuff. So she's indicating these things playfully here, and many other things. Now watch, you notice the time mark for that is 129 in the video. She does this thing like this, where she basically holds a line underneath and then the circle on top. Now that's referring to many different things. That's referring to 0 and 1, or 1 and 0, 10, okay, the decimal system. That's also referring to her relationship with Krishna. Radha on top, Krishna under her control, the line. So Sri Radha, the circle at the head, Sri Krishna underneath, as the one being guided by her in secret, behind the scenes, okay? And also, what that's indicating is division. So the division symbol has the dot on top, the line, and then the dot on the bottom, relating to that also. So there's a lot of different things she's referring to here in this one immediate sign. So always think layers of meanings in everything she encodes, not just one single meaning only, but layers of things all at one time, boom, at the same time. And they're always referring to factual eternal pastimes of Goloka daily, okay? And so always remember this fact. These pastimes are eternally going on. They're what we're supposed to meditate on every day when we're chanting, actually. And so 0 to 9 are always referring to these pastimes. 100% of the time, 108% of the time, 24/7, wherever you see them, whenever you see them, okay? Because that's reality, that's transcendence, that's eternally what's going on beyond illusory states, okay? Now, they're walking again down this path. Now check this out. Okay, 133 into the video. So I'll give you the time signatures for these different points. 133 into the video, she now starts holding up 9. She's holding up 4 with one hand and then 5 with the other hand. She's looking to the side like this. Now she's peeking to the side that has the 5 especially. Now what she's doing is she's indicating 9, okay? 9 is the number of the living entity. 9 is also the number of all of us together, basically. So it's the number of the living entity basically surrounded by all the other living entities and Radha and Krishna. And it's also the number of all of us together in our pastimes. So she's indicating this 9 here because this is going to be the next thing you're going to need to pay attention to. She's showing 5, the 5 chicks are walking, or the 4 girls are walking behind her, okay? 5 rasas now. And what you're going to see is you're going to see 4 guys walk up to the females, after they make a pentagram shape, which comes from the number 108, from the 108 gopis in the Rasa Leela dance. So the pentagram shape comes from them. The 4 that come in are symbolizing the individuals interacting with their various rasas, okay? So we'll just go into this next. But she's signifying with her fingers 9, so pay attention, okay? So now, love in the air, it's everywhere. I'm singing along to the words in the song, okay? Harinama Sankirtana. Sri Radha herself is singing along and doing this with us eternally. And so a lot of people, when I say this, that Harinama Sankirtana is our eternal function, they think I mean, oh, Harinama Sankirtana here, and then that means you're doing something else in Goloka. No, you're actually still doing Harinama Sankirtana in literally Goloka itself, but you may not necessarily be specifically chanting Hare Krishna continually all day in Goloka, but you are chanting Hare Krishna because you're chanting their names within all the other words and things you're saying throughout the day. Okay, so their names are constantly being heard. All of their infinity of names you're hearing. So Sri Radha herself has 1,000 names that are her main 1,000 names. So she has infinite names, and so does Krishna, though. So all of these names, you're processing them as referring to the forms of Radha and Krishna, whatever you're saying in Goloka. That is also Harinama Sankirtana, okay? So she's saying, what is she saying? I really must sing. Now this is very interesting. In these encoded videos, she always makes a point. She does something with her eyes where she indicates. Like in the one with Susie and the Banshees, when she says no party, she wouldn't attend. She like really makes a point of that in response to Andrew Taylor's mention of that like a couple minutes before we had discovered that song. In this one, I really must sing. She makes a point that you see it in the eyes. Okay? I really must sing. I fall into swing. Now, this is really trippy. So the first time around, so this time around she says I fall into swing. The first time I fall into spring. So Sri Radha, there's a pastime in Goloka that takes place every day. It's known as, and at a certain time when they appear on Earth, Radha and Krishna, it's called the Julana Yatra. I believe it's Julana, unless I'm mistaken on it, but it's referring to the swing pastime is what I'm getting at. So Sri Radha herself literally falls into a swing. I really must say, while she's dancing around and singing, glorifying Krishna's name, she falls and is pushed into a swing by her associates, by Lalita Devi, by Krishna himself. She's forced onto a swing to start swinging next to Krishna, and she gets all like really excited. She's literally falling into a swing. I mean, you really can't get much more literal than that. So this is like kind of going beyond encoding, her just saying what she's doing in Goloka eternally. So it's kind of interesting. How she arranges the English language to make rhymes line up with her pastimes in all languages. Like you can't escape her pastimes is the point. So, and no matter how things change in the world, Goloka never changes. So things that rhyme in whatever language always keep referring back to Goloka pastimes. Always, you see. And this is just how she set it up. She set the universe up. I cling to the day. Every day is a lifeline. Now, we're going to zoom back a second and go, the first time she said this, she said, I fall into spring. Okay? Now, when Sri Radha appears on Earth for 125 years, back when she appeared with Krishna, she is pastime-wise cursed in a playful way. Not actually cursed, but it's basically arranged as if she's cursed, okay? To appear here in the full spring of youth for 125 years, continually, to live amongst humans. So the first reference to spring is there. I fall in, so she's literally quote unquote falling down into matter with us. I fall into spring. And then once she appears, she falls into a spring from which she emerges and runs down the river and is found by Vrishabhanu, okay, on this little basket she's floating in. So I fall into spring, so she falls into the spring of youth. She falls into a literal spring. I fall into spring, and then she actually springs up when she's dancing in Krishna's names, glorifying him. And then she's the goddess of spring, the Vasanta Rasa Vigraha. So she's the source form of spring also, the goddess of spring. So there's so many spring references related to Sri Radha, like she falls into spring. It's referring to so many things all at once. So I mean, there's the sky's the limit for that. There's actually no limit to how many spring references refer to Sri Radha actually. So everywhere that you are. Now, the chicks, they're starting to run. Now, pay attention to this part. This is a big, significant part visually. So you can understand this principle. Everywhere that you are, you're the one by far. And then it zooms up. Now, what does that mean? Think about this for a second. Most people in the world think that when they say, okay, you're the one, or you are one, or this or that, they're thinking it's referring to something like very limited, like, okay, you're the only one in this romantic relationship, or this, that. What's being referred to there is wherever you are, just like one refers to Sri Krishna, one is also referring to the infinitely unique individual Jivatma. Okay? So, wherever you are, which literally wherever you are in the vastness of eternity, within transcendence or temporality, you're the one by far. So, the one is signifying you eternally, just like it's signifying Krishna. And that's also signifying you because you're infinitely unique, and you're literally the only one of you that there is, eternally so. And also, that's referring to you're the one in that sense of being romantically intimate towards her, at the core of her heart and consciousness towards you also. So she's referring to all these things when she says you're the one by far. This has nothing to do with any Mayavadi impersonalistic, we're merged into some oneness thing. No, it's talking about your infinite uniqueness is referring to your oneness. Your individuality is how you're one, distinct from all other ones, basically. Okay? So when you see 11, 1 and 1, you're seeing the dynamic between the living entity and Krishna together. Okay? What that number is signifying. So now, they're standing in what shape? Actually, there's something I skipped earlier also. When they were swinging their baskets, you'll notice the color of the baskets were, you see red in front, and then the baskets were yellow/golden, and then green. Right? There you go again. Red, gold, and green. Once again, the red, gold, and green reference keeps repeating over and over in all these songs. So, and that's no coincidence either. And who's holding the green baskets? The parenthood and the Sakyarasa are holding the green baskets, and the neutral relationships are holding the golden, yellow baskets. And there's a reason for this. So we're going to now move forward. And of course, yes, the one representing Parakya Rasa, Whigfield, is also, and Sri Radha is holding the yellow basket also in her hands. Now they're standing in the pentagram shape. The pentagram comes from the number 108. There's 108 gopis. When Radha and Krishna walk into the center of this dance circle in Goloka, they divide that circle and divide it in half. 108 is 54, 5 and 4. Remember at the beginning of the video, she indicated what? She indicated the 5 and the 4. And on the cycle vortex-based mathematics, one direction the equations go 5 times, and then the other direction they go 4 times. Okay? It's coming from Radha and Krishna, dividing the Rasa dance circle, and then the circle being full again around them. Okay? This is what makes the pentagon shape and the pentagram shape themselves. The Rasa Leela dance is what makes the shape of the pentagram physical shape that manifests through matter. It's actually Radha and Krishna dancing in the Rasa Leela, and that is what causes matter to manifest into the 5 core elements, which then expand into later on the periodic table of those combined 5 elements, which I'll cover in a different video later, so on and so forth. So we're now seeing the 5, all 5 rasas, in the pentagon shape. Keep my love inside your heart, and then they're dancing around again, and then you see 4 guys, 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, approach the other 4 rasas. Picnic baskets, okay? So now 2:11 into the video, they're sharing these picnic baskets and dancing around the Parakya Rasa in the center, which is controlling all the interactions. I'll keep your world together, and this is very significant. I'll keep your world together should it fall apart. So she's saying she's going to keep your world together if it falls apart, and she's also encoding, I'll keep your world together should it fall apart. She's asking you, should she make your world fall apart to actually connect with her in these ways and to make these things register? Or should she just stay connected with you in spite of your life falling apart? So she's saying 2 things here. It's a double encoding again. And now what we're seeing happen is each one of these guys, which are representing a living entity, being immersed in intimacy, or I should say being immersed in the relationship with their eternal svarupas, their eternal rasas, in one of the 4 rasas. Okay? Once again, she does this 7 times, and then she points to the V again. A second time she does it. So now we're dealing with 77, and then that infinity symbol. But this time, instead of holding the infinity symbol, she holds the heart, right? Which is now referring to that intimacy, that the 4, okay? Before she was holding up the 8 Ashtasakis, now she's holding up the 4, intimacy itself. Now she points again to the V symbol, the golden V, with green inside. Yeah, this will definitely require a part two. Because this one will basically be the summary version. The second one will be a much more in-depth, okay, what are the pastimes of Agloga happening real time right now version, like, and correlating to this. So, yes, but this is fine. This is how they've had it planned and arranged anyway, it seems. And once again, what does she do again? She does the head on the hands. Remember, she did this twice. So this is the second time again. Her relationship with Krishna, her the circle, him the lion, her on top, him being under her control, the living entity and Krishna together, united, with her controlling the whole situation, etc., etc. Okay? Now, you notice they're passing the baskets to each other. So this is referring to passing the transcendental fruit around. So in other words, the results of your devotional activities are being passed around and shared between inter-rasa-wise and with other people. There's this always giving and sharing. And you'll notice what happens next visually. Check this out. Yeah, she did the shoulder thing 4 times. Boom, and then it brings it back here. Now we're seeing the Sakya Rasa representation again. There we go. So with the fingers again. She showed, once again, the 9 and the 5. There we go. So the 4 and the 5. And you notice they're handing, okay, 244 into the video. She's handing the fruit off to the guy right there, right? But he's not taking it. He's looping around her and basically walking the other direction around the one representing the Sakya, and the other guys are doing the same thing. This is basically arranging that the transcendental fruit is given back to Radha and Krishna, and that they get to enjoy it instead of you specifically necessarily taking it from them. So there's all these dynamics that take place in Goloka during the picnic pastimes and things like this. People giving each other food, people sharing it, giving it back. The stuff's going on. So that's what's being shown here naturally. And it's 244 into the video, no coincidence. Once again, the fruit, transcendental fruit. Now check this out. She swings her hand up, and I just recently figured out what this is referring to. It took me forever to actually, because I knew it was something, but she's swinging it up into the middle of the symbol that's symbolizing the womb of Sri Radha. That's what she's swinging it up into, okay? And she's swinging it up into the central green part. Now this is basically a transcendental sexual reference. Now when I say transcendental sexual, I mean not material, in the sense that sexual interactions which take place in Goloka, which happen twice a day, at least, between Radha and Krishna, minimum, during the noontime and then the midnight time, the parts that are predominated by her name, Hare Hare, are those times when she's controlling the full of the situation, she's with Krishna. And that everything that's happening is intimate at those 2 times of the eternal days. They do have intercourse at those 2 times of day. Now, when she's swinging her hand up into that center part, that's indicating her intimacy with Krishna and also with the living entities, okay? Symbolically, both. So this is very interesting. When she swings, then she grabs her hand like this. And this is exactly at 246 into the video, okay? And she's holding like this, like she's just done something wrong or bad, right? But what she did was she just signified to us what we're supposed to pick up on here. Is that, oh, that's considered, right there, that type of intimacy is considered bad and like hidden stuff you're not supposed to deal with, talk about, or think about. Whatever, that's basically private stuff, and she's indicating this to hint us these things. And now what are we seeing? 3 V's. 3. So now we're seeing this 3 and 3 pillars too. So the references to this should be obvious and should be understood by everyone, what this is referring to. And so now we're moving on. And once again, you're seeing the red, gold, and green reference here, yet again. And then after this is done, I'll talk about like a lot more in depth, like what this has to do with relating to all of us on a very personal level, not just encoding that to pick up on, but how it relates to all of us very specifically, like all of us in this group talking to each other, and why. So she says, she combines 2 words, just so sight and so silent are stars into the night, both. She likes to combine these words like this in these things, just like she combined the word Gara with gold in the Prince song also. Silent, millions of lights over us in the night sky. Deep in love is you and I. And so in Goloka there are stars. Yes, there are transcendental stars. There's a pastime sun, there's a pastime moon. But in Goloka, it's not like being within a material universe. It's like those stars and the sun, the Suryadeva there and the moon there, they're actual devotees interacting with Radha and Krishna, playing the role of being the sun and the moon and the stars. So like in the material world, you have the stars, which are like abodes of like different demigods and things like that. That's also there in Goloka, but in Goloka, it's basically them engaging in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in those roles versus them being conditioned within a material world. Okay, so that's what's going on in Goloka as we speak. So there are stars, millions of lights over us in the night sky. Now you notice how she specifically only says over. She doesn't say over and under or around and on all sides. It's because even in Goloka, the star systems are always above. And the Goloka mandala, the Rasa mandala, is a mandala. It's a flat disk plane that's circular, not a sphere. No. So she's also emphasizing, once again, the Earth is flat and circular, a disk plate, not a sphere. And she's also putting it in this music as well. And that's how Goloka is too, just like the same. Love forever, she puts her arms around herself like this. Now you'll wonder, okay, well, why didn't any of the guy symbol characters in this walk up to the Parakya Rasa representation? Think about it. This is very interesting, actually, because they are interacting with Parakya Rasa. But what's going on here is what's emphasizing that the ones who are actually directly in the Parakya Rasa, most of their activities actually aren't being seen. The other 4 rasas' activities are being seen by the other rasas. Okay? The activities in the ones in Parakya Rasa's activities are not being seen, but they're the guiding activities of the other 4 rasas all the same. Okay? And in Parakya Rasa, there's very much the consciousness of being enjoyed by Radha and Krishna, okay, versus being a Purusha or a pastime Purusha, which you end up in the other rasas. Now, there are male forms that do exist in Parakya Rasa, such as the Kamadevas, the flute, and various things like this, pillars, etc. But still, it's a dynamic of being enjoyed by Radha and Krishna in those dynamics. It's not the consciousness of I'm the male enjoyer of them for my pleasure. It's basically I'm playing the role of a male enjoyer, but I'm actually being enjoyed by them. Consciousness, basically. That's kind of how it works. So, and that's why they didn't appear next to her. Now the hula hoops. You're getting competition between Sakya and parenthood now. The hula hoops, this is what's being shown. Now they're spinning them. Now these are golden hula hoops. Okay? So this is the competition trying to influence what's going on in Parakya Rasa, trying to influence Radharani, trying to influence the gopis and what's happening. Now you'll notice the one in Sakya tends to be a little bit more successful with the hula hoop. Okay? On the right side of Sri Radha, looking up at her, which is going to be appeared on the left side to our vision, but on the physical right side behind Sri Radha. Okay? And Parakya Rasa. And she keeps spinning while the one in the parenthood drops it. Now this is known because Radha and the gopis and Krishna, they tend to go off in the woods and do other things, but the ones in Sakya Rasa, friendship Rasa, tend to be able to tag along for a longer period and to be more involved in the private stuff for longer periods than the parenthood Rasa. But the parenthood Rasa, they make a very substantial effort. It's a very cute effort, actually, so you'll see this being visually shown. Now, that one that was actually doing the hula hoop, this is important to keep in mind also. I just said parenthood, which is true, but that one actually being shown was the master-servant dynamic relationship versus the Sakya relationship. So what's also being shown here, specifically, is the competition between Sakya and the master-servant consciousness dynamic, whereas the more intimate consciousness tends to win over in terms of staying intimate that much longer, getting more familiar, whereas the master-servant dynamic in Goloka tends to have to spend more time, at the palaces, at the locations, getting stuff ready for Radha and Krishna to come back. Whereas Sakya Rasa, they tend to go with Radha and Krishna to places. So that's also what's being shown there. A quick clarification on that, which is to be noted. But you get the point. You get the idea. And then they're pretty much both solidly on the hula hoops now, which once again, you combine the two, you get the sine wave, the infinity symbol, yet again, the 8 symbol, the hula hoop swinging. Then she says, should it fall apart? And then look, the Sakya just keeps spinning it around and around and around. So this is basically intimacy overruling in terms of being able to keep up with Radha and Krishna throughout the day. The more intimate inclination will allow you to keep up with them more throughout the day. So keeping up with what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're encoding, what they mean by what they're doing. All their little hidden messages to each other and stuff. The Sakya Rasa, they can tend to pick up on this stuff. The Master Servant Rasa, they can pick up on it to a certain degree, but it's like a lot more of an effort. It's a lot more like there's a lot left out that you don't 100% know about, that you're not sure about. And there's actually a lot of devotees who eternally prefer that dynamic. They like not 100% knowing what's going on. They like not being privy to all the hidden details and stuff, and they prefer to be in just the waiting mode for Radha and Krishna to come back. And sure enough, that is a rasa in Goloka also, which is highly appreciated. There we go. Now we're almost to the end of it. And now see, they pick her up. Now, which were the two that actually touched her shoulders? So I need to clarify something really quick. The two that touched her shoulders were the parenthood and the neutrality relationship dynamic, whereas the competition ones were the friendship and the master-servant dynamic ones. All right? Now, the parenthood and neutrality touching her, getting her attention like this, is a very significant thing, because Sri Radha, her basically, as long as it's like master-servant stuff going on and like the Sakya friendship stuff going on, Sri Radha isn't as concerned about being spotted or like being like given away or whatever, because basically she has collateral on them also. Like if they give her away, she has info on all of them too. So she's not really concerned so much about them ratting or whatever. But when it comes to the parenthood and the neutrality relationships, then it becomes a little different, because like the neutrality, they're very passive, so they're going to like give up information really freely if somebody asks them. And then the parenthood, naturally, the parents are thinking innocent things towards their youthful children. Oh, they're not having intimate intercourse in the groves of Vrindavana. Everything's completely innocent. You know, everything's fine. There might be some suspicions. But and then when they call them home, okay, Sri Radha, come home for dinner, or this and that, Sri Radha like pays attention. She gets all anxious and scared. So you notice those two rasas touching her shoulders get her up and moving. While Sakya, friendship, rasa, and master servant were in competition. See? Okay. Here we go. Now they all run towards the building. Now you'll notice the color of this building. The glass was what? That shama color, which also translates to a dark greenish blue color. And also the once again, that yellowish type color. That color dynamic is not a coincidence, and it's not a mistake. It's not random either. She put that in this video for a reason. And they run to the building. Love you forever. There we go. And then what do they all do? They run towards it. Then they all take a right. Remember what she said earlier? I want to make it right. Right? Because she actually, when she's running back to escape from being seen, she takes a right turn on her way back to her house to be with her mother and father in her palace in Varshana, and her father's Vrishabhanu, and her mother was what's her mother's name? I know her mother's name, but I don't want to say the wrong name because I don't want to get her mother's name mistaken with someone else. But yeah, you get the idea. So she runs home to her mother and father, and she takes a right to do it. And she's running, what? The palace? Home, but she's taking a right to get there. So the whole thing is shown here. Now, now that the song ends, the heart shape is the final thing you see. Now, this thing about the heart shape, it's very significant. A lot of people overlook this. What is the heart shape specifically correlating with on the female form? The heart shape is referring to and always correlating with the bottom of the neck leading out to the breasts of a female, that shape. So the shape which allures lustful desires and or pure loving desires, depending on the consciousness, in the male enjoyer consciousness. Okay, and it's also referring to the lower part of the back to the two cheeks of the buttocks. And this is, I'm not saying this is a joke, I'm saying this very seriously. This is actually what the heart shape is referring to. It's referring to those two things. So the breast shape and then the buttock shape on the back. That's why the heart shape is the heart shape that we use for love, intimacy, etc. This is quite literal. This is not a joke. And that's the last symbol you see. Now, fades into the darkness, a This Gas Thing video. That is also significant too, but there's a lot more to that. So the point is, just to streamline it, we'll move forward from that. But you guys get the gist of it now. And I think you guys can see the symbolism, and look at this. It almost ended exactly at the 1 hour mark. And because there's so much to this having a part 2 will be very good and useful, and we'll cover a lot of different things now that the video itself has been actually covered. My apologies for not being able to have the tablet up, physically pointing to stuff on the video, but if you guys had another tab open and you were listening to the time signatures I was mentioning, you can easily, it's only 4 minutes and 18 seconds long, the video. Very easy to follow along, very easy to see what I'm referring to in different parts of the video. So not difficult, not complicated. All right, now I'll finally bring this tab down so I can see people's comments. I haven't been able to see them this entire time. Now I will start looking at the comments and responding and talking. Okay, here we go. 64 comments. Look at that. I'm going to actually screenshot this. 64 comments, 4 likes and loves. Exactly 4 and 64. This is no joke. This is actually the numbers. Okay, so I'm taking a screenshot of this. Hold on just a minute. Bear with me. To verify this to everyone. I mean, you guys that are on it can see this too. That's significant. The fact that it's the second I pulled down the video, I see exactly 4 loves and likes and exactly 64 comments. Well, at that second that I did, when I didn't work, now it's at 65 comments, but you guys get the idea. At that moment, it was 64 comments. Exactly. And 64 is the number of rounds we're supposed to chant per day. Multiples of 8. Okay, so 8, 16, 32, 64. Very significant number. 6, once again, referring to the central bed in Goloka Vrindavana. 4, the intimacy thereof. Okay, so 64. So 64 comments. I'm gonna be able to look at the last 3, but there's a lot I still have to cover, so I'll answer what I can and look at the comments later when I come back to this video. And you say Japan 4 is considered an unlucky number, like how many Christians fear the number 666? Okay. Love Garanga, but oh Radhika. There we go. The color red is used a lot in the Sixth Sense movie too, signifying the presence of spirits. Yep, that's true. Because that we 4 and 666 from a materialistic point of view. There we go. What about 4, 8, 16, 23, 42 pattern? Will be something I'll have to cover later. They see not, we, oh boy. Right. In Latin, V is their U, sounding like womb or tomb. Yes, all of them are like that. Ha ha ha. Welcome, Ida Bagas Made Svabhava. It has a lightweight contrast. Oh, these are earlier comments. Okay, so let me get down here. My apologies. There's a lot I had to skip because I couldn't read them during the presentation, which probably worked out the best because that was an hour. My gosh, that was a fast time going by. So at the end, are they playing King, Queen, and... Yeah, they're basically playing a game like that, more or less. 64 is the square of 8. Yep, there it is. Okay. So now, it looks like Vrindadasa, Nitai, and Presley L. Benson are the 3 on still. The other guys have taken off, probably need to do some other stuff. So, yeah. I was hoping I could cover this in more like an enthusiast. So, okay, from here on, I'll go more into this. So, there's a book called Bhavanasara Sangraha. I encourage you all to get, which I've referenced to before in multiple occasions. It was, yes, Mahanidhi Swami was involved in the translation process. That was an eternal, wonderful service he had. I'm aware of the things Mahanidhi Swami did afterwards, which were less than reputable. So many different things like this, accusations, blah, 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 which personally are no concern to me at all because of his original service here. And I look at him internally and not according to those external things. But the point is, don't avoid getting this book or getting access to it because the translation is solid. Even though Mahanidhi made some choices afterwards that were not exactly what most people would consider ideal for a Babaji, aka shifting from sannyasi to Babaji, etc. The point is, the book itself, Bhavanasara Sangraha, has the eightfold daily pastimes that happen in Goloka every day to assist with your meditations. Sri Radha appeared in the late 1800s, 1878, to Sri Siddha Krishnadasa Tatapada. He had actually been fasting for so many days he almost went blind. Okay, so well, he actually did go blind, and he was about to leave his body completely. Sri Radha herself personally appeared to him, gave him a plate of prasadam from her own hand, and the Lita Devi actually rubbed salve onto his eyes, like so he could actually see again. And as soon as he opened his eyes, they had disappeared again. And then later on, a few nights later, they appeared to him again and told him, compile this book, which is the most intimate details of our pastimes, from everywhere you possibly can, from all the different acharyas everywhere. Compile this into one book for the benefit of all my devotees. Sri Radha told this to Sri Siddha. This is what he did. He made his life's mission, and he completed this before he left his body. There's a photo of him taken in the late 1800s, and you can see the transcendental shine from his face. So we owe Sri Siddha Krishnadasa Tatapada everything for giving us this transcendental literature. The book is called Bhavanasara Sangraha, a collection of ultimate meditations. Get it as soon as you possibly can. It should be $25 or less, usually like $15 or less. You can get it offline. Very much worth it. Very, very important to get. 6 + 4 = 1. Yep, exactly. According to vortex-based mathematics, you understand it. Good. Bingo, you come back around to war. Or 10, though 1 + 0 = 1. Correct. And now this is very interesting how this works. So, first off, to simplify everything so people don't get confused, okay? A lot of times when people get into numerology and all these types of things, they tend to overthink too much the numbers themselves and the number combos, what they could mean or this or that. So going into a speculative mode instead of immediately what's obvious in front of you. The numbers are always referring to the transcendental pastimes. So there's a highest level of things they're referring to, and then there's lower layers of perverted reflections numbers are always referring to. So once again, understand, remember that little poem jingle that I sent you guys to remember these things from. 0 to 9, what they always are referring to, whenever you see them regarding these pastimes. And you'll see these numbers play out in these pastimes like this too. And also understand that, so when you see a number anywhere in a number line circle, you'll know what that number is referring to, and you'll know how that number is related to the ones next to it relating to these pastimes. So I encourage people getting into numerology, don't be intimidated or afraid, because Sri Radha encoded this particular song because she wants you, all of us, to understand numbers and how to read them and how to see her presence in them 24/7 daily, wherever we see numbers. Okay? She wants us to be able to do this. So therefore, by doing so, we can see her much more easily and much more conveniently throughout the day. And she's set the world up to facilitate this. So take advantage of the tools she's given us. Don't look at it as like, oh, numerology, it's some knowledge-based science. No, it's an intuitive-based science. It's not some like separate informational thing you have to get expert at. It's very simple. It's like, so the guys like going crazy looking at number lines and stuff, going insane and stuff, those guys are they're not seeing Radha and Krishna's forms in the numbers. They're speculating about numbers, and they're actually getting led away further and further. That's why they go crazy. Because instead of looking at what's right in front of their face, what Radha and Krishna are just blatantly showing us, they speculate on what it could mean instead of just accepting what it does mean. You see? So so the point is, going into numerology, use it as a tool in your devotional service to like, oh, Radharani. So whenever you see 0, that's always referring to Sri Radha, always. And so you know that that's who's being referred to. So wherever you see a 0 pop up in your life, oh, there's Sri Radha right there. There she is. There she is again. There she is again. Boom, 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 boom. 24/7, look at 0 like that. Makes it simple. You don't have to, don't look at 0 as like, okay, it's representing Sri Radha and then something else or all these other different things. It's like, okay, yeah, those other things are branch offs of Sri Radha, but what is it ultimately, who are the numbers ultimately referring to? That's what you got to look at. 0 is ultimately referring to Sri Radha at the end of the day, and that's the largest scale scope of what that number means. 1 is always referring to Krishna himself. This is why males who have male forms have lingas, penises, why females have vaginas. It's because, and why the numbers correlate with those organs. So that's why 0 correlates with Sri Radha, and that's why 1 correlates with Sri Krishna. Very simple. So the symbol, the monad, or the circle and the dot in the middle, the dot in the middle is referring to the living entity in relationship with Sri Radha, and then the line in the circle is referring to the relationship between Sri Radha and Sri Krishna, who is represented by the line. Or I always say it in a way that actually is more accurate. Krishna draws the line. It's not that a line. It's not that things start off as a circle and a line, and then from that circle and line come Radha and Krishna. No, it's the other way around. Radha and Krishna draw by hand on paper in Goloka the circle and the line. Sri Radha says, okay, this represents me here, and then Krishna draws the line, this represents me. And then the dot, this represents the living entity. And then they discuss, this represents our relationship with the living entities. That's what goes on. It's not that the dot, the line, and the circle are themselves what make the living entity, what make Radha and Krishna. No. A lot of false syncretists will start claiming this stuff. That, oh, the sacred geometry works this way, that's why Radha and Krishna have these forms, because it comes from numbers. No. They got it backwards. Numbers come from them the other way around. You see. Always the other way around. Never co-equal. Never co-dynamic. My landlord's house number is 108. There you go. Rascals. Yep, intuitive, right brain. I want to make it right. And that's why Sri Radha makes it right, goes to the right. And she keeps signifying, pointing to the right over and over and over again. Intuition, grasp this internally, inherently, beyond the information I'm showing you. So that music video, you'll notice, if you have it internally, a very childish or kid-like mood internally, right, or eternally, you'll find it very enlivening and inspiring and exciting. You see, it'll be like a kid watching a Sesame Street, but like in a transcendental version. You see what I'm saying? If your eternal mood or internal state is much more the adult type thing, the adult state, you probably won't, or the mature, older teenager type state, you probably won't find the same type of attraction to that particular song. and that's fine. That's actually why, but just as long as people know that's what's encoded there, and that's why she set it up that way, to cater especially to that kid in the consciousness, the child in the consciousness. Okay. Now, so now that we understand that, and of course 2 is referring to Radha Krishna, 3 is referring to Radha Krishna Jivatma, Radha Krishna Chaitanya, 4 is intimacy, 5 is the 5 rasas, 5 is the 5 flower arrows, the Kamadeva fires, the Krishna himself fires, is the original Kamadeva, the pentagram, pentagon, the 5 elements, the 5, so all these things, that's 5. 6 is the hexagon in the center of Goloka, the pastime bed, the perversion of which is what makes our temporal bodies, which are filled with lust for our own gratification in this world. Carbon 6, the number of carbon which makes up the physical bodies of humans, living organisms, which has the number 6 as its correlating with the central pastime of Goloka and our relationship with Radha Krishna there. 7 is referring to information, the flow of water, which is why there's 7 oceans, 7 all this, Sapta, Sapta in the 7 islands, Sapta Dvipa, so 7 islands, 7 oceans, 7, 7. Information, flow of information, deviant philosophies, real philosophies, 7. And then you have 8 Ashtasakis, the infinity symbol, 8-fold daily pastimes. 9 is referring to us together in Goloka. And then 10, of course, is referring to Radha and Krishna together, standing in front of us. And then, of course, 11, Krishna in the living entity. 1, 2, Krishna emphasized when he and Radha and Krishna appear. 1, 3, the dynamic between Radha and Krishna and the living entity being emphasized with a slight emphasis on the living entity. 1 and 4, the living entity, shelter and intimacy, so on and so forth. You guys get it. These things, numerology is meant to be more intuitively grasped than point by point, like informationally grasped. The information's there, but it's much more designed to be intuitively grasped. And you're saying, as the wavelength dips down towards the feminine, plunging into the ocean of intuition. There you go. Exactly. That's why everything associated with Sri Radha always comes back to the intuition, the hidden, the under the surface stuff. And then, why not do air writing? It's done in the Western mystery traditions. Yes, air writing is a very interesting thing. But the point is, Sri Radha herself is doing all the air writing anyway. Like every breath we take is her giving it to us as a gift. Okay? Now, so this is the book. I'll show you guys this physical book. If you want to understand transcendental numerology, get a copy of this book right here, as soon as you possibly can. A collection of ultimate meditations, Bhavanasara Sangraha. I've read this book so many times, over and over and over again, and this is like my go-to, this is my main book that I reference to and read, and I have highlighted right and left, top to bottom. Now, this book, everything makes sense. All the material sciences make sense, music, art, everything. Why Krishna does what he does in the other pastimes, why Sri Radha does what she does. The whole thing is their direct pastimes completely. Okay, so encoding is designed to get us to reference back to and remember these pastimes, whereas these pastimes themselves are the direct eternal pastimes actually taking place directly, without the need for encoding, because it's right in front of your face. So the encoding is basically to hide these things and remind us of them while we're in the temporal state, surrounded by materialistic people, surrounded by a temporal world, but nonetheless spilling through those things so that we can see them. Okay, and there's those solid 8 pastimes, the afternoon pastimes up until the midday, the Madhyana Lila. Radha and Krishna end up making love at the end of those pastimes, or I should say within those pastimes. Yes, and then around noon, and then at midnight, the Rasa dance, the Rasa Lila, Radhamadava's other intimate pastimes happen at the night also. So you have those 2 times of the day where they have intimate interactions, and then you're saying, perhaps similar to the song about the days of Christmas. Yes, there is a correlation actually. Yep, on the first day of Christmas, Rachel games to be a partridge in a pear tree and so forth. Yes, there are actually some photos in there, which are really nice photos. Welcome, Nicholas Paris. There are some nice photos, actually, and very interesting ones indeed. Now, going into this, the order in which these songs were revealed is a very specific order. The order in which she made them clear. So this number, the song Forever, was revealed way back in at least early night 2017, if not 2016. It's been a while now, but it's been revealed all that while back. But I haven't actually covered it up until now, and even after I've covered a lot of songs that were revealed after this song. For many, but this one really struck a chord with me on so many levels, on a heart level, on a very deep consciousness level. Welcome back, Ishvara Nandini. So we've already covered the entire music video itself up to this point, but we're going into more of the details as to why, the esoteric reasons. And so Ishvara Nandini, you were specifically mentioning, you wanted to know the reasons why. Here's the thing, these pastimes are actually encoded and hidden in the Bhagavatam. They're directly mentioned in the Bhavanasara Sangraha. So they are in the Bhagavatam, but they're hidden within the Bhagavatam like that. And like there's a unique variation on these pastimes that's encoded in the Bhagavatam. So a person can spend their whole lifetime looking at the encoding in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, correlates with the astrological wheel, correct. So everything that happens materially comes from these pastimes. So it is worth everyone's time and effort daily to get familiar with these pastimes, your place in these pastimes, your relationship with Radha and Krishna, which is the whole point of us chanting 64 rounds a day, which is the whole point of us having 108 rounds, which is the whole point of there being 5 rasas, all these number correlations. The whole point of all these things is to get us back to these eternal relationships we have with Radha and Krishna. Okay, so being familiar with these pastimes is very useful because it makes everything else make sense completely. Material, whatever pops up, whatever you see in the world. So therefore, whatever happens, whatever you see happening in the world externally around you, and even in your dreams and in your mind, is correlated to your relationship and your place in these pastimes. Okay, in a very significant way. Now, when the song was first revealed to me, I was definitely very much in tears for days on end. I'd listened to it I'd watched it, listened to it like countless times over and over and over again because it was such a direct message to me. But I had no idea that it was actually an encoding for all devotees worldwide of the Vrindavana mood. I didn't know that until recently. That was recently made clear to me after these years. And that's actually the reason I didn't cover it, because it was a very one-on-one specific message. Which I knew probably wouldn't be appreciated by very many people. But I'm running into a lot now, so Nataya, Vrinda, Presley, individuals who very much actually deeply appreciate these things and can see what the point is that's being getting across here, the encodings and stuff. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. And Ishvara Nandini, I don't know if you were there for that part of the video, but while you're on, we did cover that, where you mentioned how the song itself, so don't feel bad about that in any way. That's actually a good indicator of who you are eternally. So the song itself, the sound itself, like if the sound itself bugs you or you're irritated, that's correlating with your eternal Svarupa. It's very significantly so. So it's not like, don't look at it as like a bad thing. I'm doing something wrong because I don't like an encoded song. Encoded songs aren't designed for people to like them or dislike them. It's not about liking or not liking them. It's about, there's encoding there, what is it? Liking it or not liking it's kind of a secondary thing, but whether you do like it or not is significant regarding to who you eternally are, though. So this is important, and I mentioned like before, this song tends to cater to eternal children in consciousness, or those who have that as one of their main moods, whereas those who have more of a mature and or just adults, you may be youthful, but you may have an adult type consciousness in Goloka more. The sound probably won't cater to you as much, and it won't cater to your ears as much. Whereas, for example, the Karma Chameleon one, the Kama Chameleon song, does cater to you very much so, because that song caters to people of all of those rasa ages and age ranges. But the Forever song was especially encoded towards eternal children in consciousness, or people who have that as one of their moods in consciousness. It may not be that they're only eternal children, but that's one of your moods eternally. And this tends to cater to those people. The sound-wise, they tend to like that sound more. So, writing holy name with Tulsi stick or ego finger works. Okay. So now that everybody understands this, and you guys have brought up a lot of really good points, I'll have to read a lot of the comments later. Does anyone have any questions, anything that hasn't been clarified yet? That I may be able to answer at this point in the video. Any questions at all? Any further clarifications? things that they're still kind of foggy, that may not make sense fully yet? If so, please ask them now. That would be very useful. That way we can answer them for everyone who may have the questions later popping up. So what I'll do is I'll go into now the order in which the songs were revealed and why they were revealed in that order. So the first song, if you guys go to the playlist that was revealed, it was Madonna, Open Your Heart. This is the song about Sri Radha referring to the living entities opening their heart to her presence, to her being the hidden supreme, to her actually being the one who controls Krishna, to actually showing that she's actually focusing and prioritizing her relationship with the individuals who are connecting with her on that intuitive level. Okay, that's what she showed in that first one. So open your heart. So that open your heart, when people see the message, when someone sees the message, and this is what happened with me also, when you see what the encoding is in that, you immediately get a surge of inspiration in Harinama Sankirtana that day, like right then and there. Go, let's go on it. That's what will happen if you see the full message in that song. That is 100% what will happen every time. If the full message is not being seen in that particular song, the inspiration to engage in Harinama Sankirtana, boom, immediately, right then and there, may not occur. But when you see the full import of what she's saying to you in that, immediately the Harinama Sankirtana inspiration will happen. Because that's what she's saying. Okay, see me, connect with me in this way, engage in Harinama Sankirtana. This is the way back to me directly in Goloka Vrindavana. I'm hiding myself. Basically, I'm covering. I'm eternally arranging with Krishna that he's worshipped as the supreme. He's the front and center, while I'm actually the hidden supreme, basically. And I'm revealing this to you in secret, basically. That's what she revealed in that one. The second one, heaven is a place on earth. She's now revealing the time frames. So she's revealing the flat circular earth map relating to her glories being spread throughout the world, okay, and discussed amongst us like this. So the way she's revealed it is actually the order in which things take place among us, right? And specifically the order in which she's revealed these different encodings, like the messages in depth. The third one was, I love Sri Radha, love song for Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes, and so the third one was Block Party, which was the song by Block Party called The Love Within is Moving Upwards. And then her message in that was, once again, devotees, once they realize the first two messages of Sri Radha and the other two, they'll be individually engaging in Harinama Sankirtana different parts of the world by themselves, without instruments, without help, just with their own bodies and voices. That's what will happen once those first two messages are picked up on. Okay, that's part 3. That was the third song she revealed to Robin Cloud, and he relayed it to me. And then Andrew Taylor, well, then this Forever song was revealed as being directly encoded, but then the public proof came later. And then once again, I showed this one that we did tonight to Andrew Taylor. He came across the song 7, which is referring to the defeat of the 7 false devotional ideologies. Because once the first 3 take place and start happening, which they're all starting to happen together, yes, that's a very big song, a very, very key encoded song. And I'm sure you probably watched that video on what the encoding is. That one's amazing, because that one is it's referring to so many things at once. The flat earth map, flat circular earth, and Sri Radha's glories. And it'll make me laugh, actually. The years later on, it'll make me chuckle to myself that, like, these things playing out, oh, now everybody knows the earth is flat and circular. The stuff that Radharani was encoding in these videos has played out now, and it's played out according to what she was talking about. That, oh, people are now correlating the flat earth with her glories and all these other things now. And then people will then look back at all this stuff and be like, wow, they were actually talking about this stuff back in 2018. It was going on. You know, they were talking about this stuff playing out. So it's going to be funny when that happens. Just to see what the response will be, because there's so many people now who are like really aggressive and angry and you know, bitter towards me and stuff because of this, like, doing this encoding stuff. But it'll be really interesting to see when that actually plays out, how they will actually come back to me and talk to me and interact with me at that point. I'll just be like, you know, welcome back. That's pretty much what I'll just say. At that point, I was like, did you have fun going around in a big circle? You know. So anyway. But and then you said, is it a possibility that Sri Radha and Krishna could manifest as actual physical incarnations as humans simultaneously as they are present everywhere, physically and transcendentally? Very good question. In fact, that was the next thing I was going to talk about, like as specific individuals. Yes. Now this is very key here, and this is where a lot of people, if they don't really pay attention in depth to the explanation, the discussion on this topic, they'll jump to assumptions that they'll get misideas. Okay, so Radha and Krishna themselves, okay, so the direct personal forms, they actually directly appeared in 3228 BC if I'm not mistaken, was the year that Krishna appeared and with Sri Radha. And then they stayed on Earth until 3108 BC. Okay, so that's about 5,000, almost 200-ish years back from now, approximately, basically. And then they actually do appear through, right. So they actually appear through individual people, like right now. They're actually appearing and incarnating through us face to face in these different ways. But we're maintaining our individuality. So it's like this. So when Radha and Krishna appear separately from when they appear directly, like their forms transcendentally and physically and stuff, okay? So with Radha and Krishna, the physical and the transcendental, they're identical. They don't take on flesh or anything like that. They appear in their eternal form as it is eternally and then go back as they are eternally. So they don't take on matter when they appear. Living entities like us right now, who are individuals from them, parts of them, we're taking on temporal externalized bodies due to very specific reasons, using Radha and Krishna for our own pleasures and ways that we're experiencing a distortion of our relationship with them. However, when we appear in this world like this, we maintain our individuality, okay? So just like, here's a great example in the encoded music videos. So like Radharani herself appeared in the body and through Madonna, even though Madonna herself was still materially conditioned, very much so, still in cahoots with like a lot of the Illuminati people, demon people, and still a separate individual living being. So it's that Radha appears through her and in her and through her music, but she herself maintained a different identity from Sri Radha while Radha was appearing through her, you see? So it's not that she is Radha or anything like that, it's that she appears through them, just like she appears through you, Presley, also, and vice versa. Krishna appears through me, and Radha and Krishna appear through Vrinda Dasa, things like this. So they appear through each of us continually like this as an infinite number of avatars, incarnations, etc. But a certain type of avatara, not one of the standard externally observable avatars. Okay? So there's a distinction between the externally observable avatars and Radha and Krishna themselves appearing through matter and through people as hidden avatars. Okay? And when I say hidden, I mean very much so completely hidden. There, but totally hidden. Hidden from scripture, hidden from everything else that we have to intuitively pick up on and recognize that they're there. Okay? Exactly, in the form of the awakening of devotion in our hearts. And yes, so the point being, at first glance, many people would look at this and they would assume, a lot of people erroneously would assume, he's saying that Radha and Krishna appear through everyone, therefore we can treat everyone directly as Radha and Krishna directly. Like, Vrinda Dasa, I'll treat you directly as Krishna, or directly as, or I'll treat Presley directly as Sri Radha and Krishna. No, it's not how it works. You still treat them and interact with them as an individual living entity, okay, as your eternal friend and loving associate, but you understand how Radha and Krishna are acting through them with you, okay? And in the process, Hare Krishna Ishvarana, all glories to the assembled devotees. Yes, all glories to the assembled devotees. I needed to make sure to specifically mention that at the beginning of this video. Thank you for that reminder. It's always very important to glorify the devotees who are here. So yes, Sri Radha and Krishna are appearing through all of us to each of us directly and face to face. Illuminati, yes. So here's the interesting thing about this whole Illuminati thing, the light. They're being blinded by the light itself. So they're being obsessed with this light that emanates from the forms of Radha and Krishna, and they're not seeing the forms of Radha and Krishna past the light. They're thinking Radha and Krishna are co-equal or codependent on the all-light, and that's the problem. That's how the Illuminati see it. They acknowledge and they accept that there's transcendental forms, personalities exist, but they don't accept them the way that we do. They don't understand the order of operations. That's what's going on. They don't understand that Radha and Krishna are the source of the Brahmajyoti completely. They see it that the Brahmajyoti is the light version of the Absolute, and Radha and Krishna are the sound, movement, face-to-face relational forms of the Absolute. And that is the one-world religion they're trying to promote now. Okay, it's a very subtle thing, and I talk about it pretty much every video to keep reminding people about it. But it's very easy to defeat it and to understand, when you know what to look for. The key is, and thank you, Vrinda Das, I appreciate your encouragement. It's a very big sigh of relief. I'm not even kidding. Up to this point, up until Ishvaranandi has always been very kind and loving and supportive, and that's been very helpful, extremely helpful. So thank you, Ishvaranandi, and some others have. But Vrinda, you're constantly encouraging me at every step of the way, and it's really a nice sigh of relief to have interactions like that, where I can just speak freely, and you get what I'm saying. You just get it. It registers and it clicks on the intuitive level, to where I don't even need to explain myself. I mean, it's amazing. I love it. It's just the banana di arti, right? Exactly. The darkened ones. So, so I hope everyone that does understand now how these numbers work, why Radha and Krishna use the 0 to 9 system instead of other systems, because Radha and Krishna can change it if they want to, but they choose to use this system. They like this system. It's the one that they eternally correlate. Now, what's interesting about this, because Radha and Krishna are eternal, whatever they do is also eternal. So like they're making these choices eternally also. So we can rely on these number systems being eternally in place, staying there. If Radha and Krishna were to change them, or to change how they use number system or whatever, they would simply put us in a universe somewhere where they're using a different number system to interact with us and to bring us back to them. That's all. But in this particular one, and in most cases, even transcendentally, they prefer to use the 0 to 9 system. But they're never bound by it. They can change it, but they usually prefer not to change it because it is the perfect number system, and they like it. You see, so yeah, that's why things operate according to their will like this. As mother and father, as queen and king of the home, the vessel, the palace. Exactly. Wonderful. Yes, the order of operations, PEMDAS. Is that the Sanskrit word for order of operations, Nitai? Is it PEMDAS? Is that actually the Sanskrit word, or is there a different word for it? Oh, you're very welcome, Vrindadasa. It's been extremely uplifting to me, being able to interact with you. It's been such a sigh of relief. Because, I mean, after a while, it's just, I mean, I'm fine either way. Like, I'm able to keep interacting with Rodney. I have my relationship with him regardless. But it does kind of get old after a while when you're constantly facing people asking the same questions, naysaying, saying, oh, that's speculation. They're just constantly saying that to you all the time. It just becomes very frustrating to have to deal with that so often. So having someone who actually reciprocates, and not just someone, I mean you specifically reciprocating, and other individuals reciprocating like that, it's tremendous, because then I can actually go into the stuff I really want to go into. You know what I'm saying? Instead of clarifying millions of things before actually going into that stuff, I can just go straight into it and dive all the way in, which is wonderful. I love being able to do that. He said, I don't know, my math teacher said it in 7th grade. I'll look up the Sanskrit word for order of operations. Tattva means the detailed scientific interrelationship between Radha and Krishna and all their living entities and all their energies. That's what the word tattva means. It's a mouthful what the definition of that means, but it's basically the detailed knowledge of everything. That's tattva, basically. So PEMDAS, so tattva also refers to the order of operations as well, but that order of operations is specifically a different word, I'm sure. It's very clear. Yes, it is very clear. So, wow, right when you said that, 108 comments. So when I pulled down the video originally, it was 64 comments, which we all know what the senior, and then 4 likes, and then it was 108 comments, and then 5 loves and likes. Then the 5 is correlated with 108. These numbers keep appearing, and this is what I'm saying. Even as we're looking at the screen right now, what numbers are popping up? 4 viewers right now, 109 comments, 110, and what people are saying and talking about is relating to what numbers are popping up on the screen. It's fascinating how this works. It's really fascinating. Parentheses first, exponents second, multiplication and division third, and addition and subtraction fourth. Interesting. For Krishna, we got to be really clean and pure, but Gara is for rascals like me. Parenthesis. Ah, clever. Very clever. Okay. Yes. This is getting good. Parenthesis, elimination, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay, there it is. Yeah, so you guys are picking up on some really interesting things here. See, and this is what's going on. The parentheses, parent. So it's like you're Radha and Krishna themselves. So because you have the 2, right? Parentheses, the 2 little dots on both sides. That's them, and that's them. That's speaking words, like what they're actually saying, and why things are in parentheses. It's very easy to correlate things to Radha and Krishna's pastimes intuitively, not complicated. Theo is God. There you go. Now, you see, what's really funny though, you'll notice that it's only an individual purposefully stopping themselves from seeing these direct connections and immediate connections throughout the day. When a person purposefully, nope, I'm not going to acknowledge that is a connection to them. I'm not going to see them in this way or in that way. I'm not going to. That's the only time that a person does that. or I should say, it's only when someone does that, that as a devotee, that they won't see these things. Only when they purposefully stop themselves short. Otherwise, they'll be reciprocating nonstop, 24/7, and all these things will be very clear. And then the dots, yes. So the line of all these little dots is the Jivatmas. Now, what's interesting about this, check this out. So the pi ratio, the circle and then the line that goes on eternally, is a transcendental number, okay? That's because that's the Radha Krishna love dynamic. Now the dot in the middle, like the monad, so the dots, the little point marks, and the little, what do you call them? Yeah, the little placeholder marks. Those are the living entities. Now, what do you get when you combine a circle with a line? When you combine a circle with a line into the most compacted version, you get a dot, right? That's the living entity. So the living entity is Radha and Krishna interacting with each other in intimacy in a very specific way, which is the source of that living entity eternally being that way, and that person. See? So it's Radha and Krishna interacting in a certain dynamic that are that eternal person, okay? That cause them and make them as their son or as their daughter eternally. You see? And that's why it's a point. That's why we're referred to as points on paper and when we're being referred to and in principle. Didn't mean to send a bunch of fear, but actually that's referring to multiple living entities, that the line of dots. That's true. Basically going on for eternity, the infinitely unique individuals, each one. So yeah, this is just really it's really cool stuff when you start seeing it. But what I've noticed, and this is what I want to encourage devotees to avoid and not get sucked into, okay? Because there's a really big thing going on now called syncretism, which is syncretism is a real science. The real version related to Radha and Krishna's forms is the real version. But there's the syncretism that's basically a speculative version syncretism, where it's basically like, okay, whatever the person can personally speculate something means is what it means, more or less, in that version of syncretism. And it sidelines the forms of Radha and Krishna in nature, in depth. So there's a tendency, I'm seeing a lot of devotees are inadvertently, unintentionally getting sucked into these crowds of people who are shifting away from focusing on how numbers relate to the form of Radha and Krishna, okay, or their forms, and their interactions with us face to face. So when you're looking at numbers, you should be seeing the faces of Radha and Krishna, their forms, their arms, their legs, their hands, their feet, their lips, their mouth. You should be seeing them in the number. You shouldn't be seeing, okay, how does the number just somehow relate to them? No, you should be seeing their form when you look at the numbers, okay? But what's going on in the misguided syncretist crowd is they're talking about Radha and Krishna a lot, but they're just balling them up with a lot of these other deities and other figures and stuff, and it's misleading millions of people to the wrong ideas, to speculative ideas, which simply confuses people more. Because now what's happening is people are fixating on the numbers themselves more. They're fixating on the symbolism itself instead of who is the symbolism referring to. You see what I'm saying? And this is where the problem comes in. So if someone gets fixated on, so don't let this happen to you, is what I'm saying. Don't get fixated on, okay, there's numbers. What are the numbers possibly meaning? You know what the numbers mean. And you know that they're correlating with the forms of Radha and Krishna. But don't go into this whole thing unnecessarily where it's like, okay, we're going to study the sine wave and we're going to study how the sine wave operates. That's fine. Studying the sine wave is a good study. It's a good science to know about and to understand how material sciences work, but not in a way that distracts you from the forms of Radha and Krishna. So if you notice this happening, if you notice that when you're going to this numerology, this astrotheology stuff, that you're getting sidetracked by the knowledge and information side of things more than attraction to their form, okay, face to face, you know you're looking at the numbers in the wrong way. You're looking at them in the way that's going to entrap you in another temporal material body, in another like intellectually speculative form, where you're going to basically be like a professor or a scholar or something, but it's going to lead you away from seeing the forms of Radha and Krishna that are in front of your face. And this is what's going on in the syncretist crowds today. They're talking about Radha and Krishna, but Radha and Krishna's forms aren't their focus, and that's the problem. Because they're thinking the forms of Radha and Krishna emanate from numbers and sine wave and all this connection stuff, or are interdependent on them, and they don't realize that syncretism itself, the whole science altogether, is caused, created, and structured by Radha and Krishna themselves. But they're not recognizing this to be the case. They're thinking that Radha and Krishna's forms are balled up with syncretism, as if Radha and Krishna's forms are dependent on syncretism or something, which is not the case. Radha and Krishna are not dependent on syncretism or the universal laws or any of these things. at all. They're completely independent of them in every way. So, and then you mentioned the cartoon avatar was chill. Yes. And then you said atheistic, unnatural, and dull understanding of syncretist sciences. Exactly. Yes. But what's interesting about this is the people who are actually devoted to Radha and Krishna are being labeled atheists by those people. I've been called an atheist by many people, and I'm still to this day. I've mentioned my interactions with Santos Bonacci before. Like, I wish Santos Bonacci the best, and I really wish he would start actually emphasizing Radha and Krishna's forms and the stuff, because he'll say right now, from my experience, he'll say in private that he's interested in their forms, but later on he just won't present information as it relates to their forms. He'll just basically present it as if they're just one aspect of syncretism or something. And me and him have been going back and forth on that forever on the syncretist fold. And I'm just like, you know what, man? I just have to wait till you actually start glorifying Radha and Krishna's forms in the process of teaching syncretism. Then I'll come back to your work and come back to interacting with you again. You know, because it's like you're giving people all this great information, but instead of leading them to Radha and Krishna's forms, you're leading them further away from Radha and Krishna's forms. So, and I'm saying this now in love and respect to him, that, you know, he may change by tonight or tomorrow. He may be a different man today. He may actually be glorifying them now fully. But maybe he'll end up watching this video. Who knows? But the point is, I'm mentioning it now so everybody knows about it, and people understand what's been going on there, because he's one of the really big names in the syncretism science revealing stuff, Santos Bonacci. And I've talked to him at length about it, back and forth, specifically about how this applies to the forms of Radha and Krishna. But basically, he just kind of he would tell me one thing, and he would let the people who are calling me atheist just continue calling me an atheist. And I was like, wait a minute, we're supposedly both Krishna devotees. I'm proclaiming Radha and Krishna's glories through syncretism, okay? That their forms are what all this is leading to, and that they're the creators of it. These other people who are following you, Santos, are calling me an atheist and being very aggressive towards me, calling me a fanatic because I'm doing this regarding the forms of Radha and Krishna, thinking I'm some religious nut job or something, ignoring the information I'm actually talking to them about, which is pages and days worth of information proving and verifying the syncretism related to their forms. And in the process, he's telling me he's a Krishna devotee, but he's telling them something else, indirectly indicating to them, yeah, I am a fanatic and this and that. Yeah, he's basically doesn't really understand it. Basically, always bringing it back to basically he knows the syncretism, and basically he'll say he's a Krishna devotee, but he just leaves the actual devotees kind of in the dust. Like, okay, if you're actual devotee glorifying Krishna, it's just like if somebody calls you an atheist, you just won't even bother with it. He'll be like, oh, they're calling you an atheist. Instead of actually saying, hey, this isn't okay, you calling Krishna devotees atheists. This isn't okay, you actually putting these people down, because Radha and Krishna's forms are actually the source of syncretism. He will never actually do this. He won't. And actually, I got to a point where he directly, blatantly told me, he said, no, never. I will always acknowledge, more than anything else, over and above everything else, the symbolic aspects of things. So he acknowledges the eternal Goloka, but he disacknowledges Radha and Krishna actually appearing on Earth. So he accepts the one half, but he rejects the other half. When I last talked to him, that was our interaction and our conversation. Maybe that's changed by now, but I haven't seen any evidence of it yet. We'll see. We'll see. So anyway, that's a side branch topic. But the point is, you guys will see his stuff online. You'll know about it. So you've heard it from me directly, my experiences with him, what they've been. I recommend his information mostly, except for some of the things he says about Radha and Krishna are inaccurate. Some of the things are flatly inaccurate. But a lot of the other information is useful. So, and then you said, envision yourself as a child, and the sight is very clear, and the balance may be easily maintained. Exactly. And then, like Christ says in the Bible, right? He says, be ye like children. Conscious, that is a very significant statement. In certain cases, it's actually very literal, if that's someone's eternal form as a child internally. In other cases, that's naturally referring to the child consciousness, the innocence of the consciousness, the intuitive understanding and grasp, beyond the intellect brass tacks type stuff. Yep, it's common sense. They are false devotees. Right. It is very common sense, you know. And that's the thing. I don't like labeling people this stuff, but it's like, from my experiences with them, it was like, what do you call it? Yeah, it was like having to just wring necks, or it was like having to go through hell and high water just to get him to actually acknowledge that Radha and Krishna's forms are the source of syncretism. He just, like, for whatever reason, would never accept that and never acknowledge that. And so I was just like, well, dude, that's why people are calling me an atheist, because they're misinterpreting your work. And you're not clarifying this misinterpretation for people. You're claiming that what is actually a Krishna devotee is what is actually a syncretic Brahmavadi. It's like, and I talked to him about this constantly. I was like, dude, syncretic Brahmavadi is where they accept the forms of Radha and Krishna according to the way you're describing them. We have a name for that, and it's actually a false ideology. We understand the science of what you're talking about completely, fully, but it's a misguided science. It's what people do when they shift away from intimacy with Radha and Krishna into mental speculation, or into too much focus on the knowledge aspect of things over and above the intimacy with them. That's what happens. It leads them to syncretic Brahmavadi ideas versus the actual accurate information. And it starts to put in their minds erroneous visuals internally of the forms of Radha and Krishna, to where now the forms of Radha and Krishna are now just some optional side thing you can meditate on as a choice. Oh, I can meditate on their forms, but their forms really aren't the source or central essence. Basically, it leads people to think that the god or goddess essence is something other than their forms, basically. So, and that's syncretic Brahmavadi is what it is. And that's why it's called syncretic Brahmavadi, because it's quote-unquote backed up by all this syncretism, by all this misguided syncretism science, which itself is valid, but whose ultimate conclusion is not accurate about the forms of Radha and Krishna. You see, it might be pretty much accurate about everything else, but it's not accurate about their forms. that's the issue. You see what I'm saying? So, and then he says he seems to be changing his mind a lot, trying to figure things out. Yes, and I'm sure he's still trying to figure things out. Starts with job, Dr. Zivago, 1965. That is one I'll definitely look into, Natai. Very good reference. Acknowledge Radha Krishna's synchronized form. To attain Radha Krishna will take us many lifetimes, maybe kalpas. It doesn't need to take us multiple lifetimes, Natai. A very common misconception. It's only going to take somebody multiple lifetimes if they purposefully avoid focusing on Radha Krishna like every day and fixating on them. And so their appearances every day for us and in front of us and through other people are there to remind us of them, and that's why they're doing this, you see. So there's no reason, we actually don't have any excuse why we have to take multiple births to get back to them, or this or that. I mean, if we really insist on having external material experiences for whatever weird reason, which we don't need to have, because Goloka Vrindavan is infinitely more satisfying than that, then I guess people will go through those multiple lifetimes and stuff. But only if that's the case. You can go back immediately, right now, and actually be there right now, even right now as we speak. You don't even have to wait till you leave the body to go back to Goloka. You could be immersed in the pastimes daily while you're still in the temporal body, and while you still haven't actually left, quote unquote, left it yet. Remember, the full-scale Goloka versus pastime branch-off Goloka. There's two distinct Golokas. They're both the same place, but one version of one Goloka is the place where things go to and come from, like the airport terminal Goloka, basically. And I'm just saying this in a very simplified way so people can get the idea. And then there's the eternal beyond all pervasive Goloka, which is the Goloka that the sages, and what the Goloka that we're supposed to meditate on every day, where you're immersed real time in the Ashtakaliya Leelas, the pastimes that continually go on and that don't ever manifest in the material world and don't disappear because they're eternally happening. And then the going back side of Goloka, that's that branch off aspect of the Goloka pastimes. So it's like you're here in Goloka, right? You're here already in Goloka. There's all these branch off pastimes going on. The branch off Goloka is like the Goloka that leads you back into those Ashtakaliya Leelas. So you could literally just go directly there, and when you leave your body, you're there already. Or you can go through the route of going through Krishna's manifest earth Leelas, then back to that Goloka. Either way, you'll get back to the same place. It's just a matter of which route you take, basically. But because a lot of times people think they have to leave the body to get back to Goloka, that's actually not true at all. Because we're not actually even in the body in the first place. Remember, thinking you're in the body is also a Madhyama Adhikari type of vision, if you keep cultivating that vision. The living entity is completely transcendent from the body, literally and factually. That's not an exaggeration. It's not a theoretical statement. And what that means is you can be in Goloka right now, like immediately in meditation. Granted, it takes purity of devotion to do that, and it takes giving back to Radha and Krishna in gratefulness, which involves predominant celibacy outside of producing children, of course, things like that. But and you said the 10 offenses are killing me. Spot on, Prabhuji again. Hare Krishna. All glories to you, Vrindadasa, my friend, my eternally beloved friend. And I'm wondering where Kakati Das was too today. He must have been busy or something with work or whatever. But anyway, so you guys understand what I'm getting at here, and it's very helpful to me also. So this way, it's like when I'm writing something or relaying a message or something or posting a video, it's going to be something that you guys get and grasp, and something we can actually converse on and discuss. So this will be very useful for videos that will end up having face to face with each other. And things like this, versus basically me needing to spend time explaining things because people being super confused on stuff. Now, wanting clarification is fine, but if it's a thing where the entirety of an amount of time is spent clarifying things that really to us already are pretty much common sense, it's, basically it turns into that kind of a discussion where it's basically it's more like a class type thing instead of like just a free-flowing discussion amongst devotees, which is kind of what I prefer. And then you're saying Radha Abhiram Dasa Gore. In Lord Chaitanya's final, he was seeing Goloka Vrindavan everywhere. For instance, embracing a tree, seeing it as if it were Lord Krishna. Now that is very intriguing, actually, because Radha and Krishna see each other everywhere, literally, in the pastimes, and Radharani actually mistakes a lot of different things. Well, here's the thing: she doesn't actually mistake, because Krishna is in those pillars and those those things she embraces and stuff. But the living entities who she's embracing. So think about how much blessing those living entities are getting. Both Radharani and Krishna are seeing each other everywhere. So wherever Radha sees the blackish blue, she sees Krishna. Where she sees the darkness of the sky, whatever, and anything like that. When Krishna sees any type of gold, the sunlight, the light of the day, any starlight, any form of light or goldness or anything, yellowness, he thinks of Sri Radha and so many other things like this. He sees her form everywhere. So we are supposed to see Radha and Krishna's forms like this literally everywhere, 24/7, the way that Radha and Krishna see each other. Now, since Lord Krishna was in the mood of Srimati Radharani, okay, he was seeing Krishna specifically everywhere, right? And this is Srimati Radharani, him in the mood of Srimati Radharani, experiencing her consciousness towards him. So, you're saying, Presley, they're thinking that you're honoring Radha and Krishna as very physical idols, gods and idols, thinking that you are completely dismissing the divine, and probably only hearing what you teach rather than listening. Exactly. Goloka, well, here's the thing. Reality consists of the original state of perception, which is Goloka. Yes, basically Goloka is the original eternal state of perception. And then everything else that is experienced as quote-unquote reality are branch-off experiences of Goloka, branch-off experiences of perception. So there's the reality, and then there's the branch-offs of the original reality, which are the source of them. And that's basically how it works. So yes, so this is like Goloka is beyond space and time. So Goloka is not a place that's like physically bound. Okay, you go from here, you go to there, and that's where Goloka is. There is a Goloka that is located like that in the Brahmajyoti, but that's the branch off, basically airport terminal Goloka, right? Where it's all the same pastimes are there, but it's actually in the spiritual world. You go there, but the real Goloka, the full-scale Goloka, is beyond all-pervasive. Beyond even that Goloka, you see, beyond the one you go back to, because it's beyond space and time, beyond all these other lower perceptions of reality and things like that. So yes, all living entities are divine, and then 7 Manus spread all over the continent. There you go, all over the universe. The Manus actually rule the entire cosmos. A lot of people get that mistaken. The Manus, there were various smaller kings on Earth and stuff, but the Manus are like universally in scope. Like beings, they dwell on like the higher planets and stuff. Like the current Manu right now, he dwells in the heavenly planets, as far as I know, or he dwells on a different part of Earth, way beyond this little ice ring portion, way out there, and rules this entirety of like the Earth and like the cosmos and stuff like that, as far as I know. And he's able to travel back and forth. So the Manu that rules is actually a demigod, a deva. He's not like a human on Earth type human. He's actually a deva, a devata. That Manu is the Manu, I should say. Yeah. So, because a lot of times people get confused. They think, oh, the Manus, they're referring to like human kings on Earth or something that ruled at certain times. No, they're actually referring to universal kings. The Manus actually are the fathers of the demigods, the Asuras, the Rakshasas, all of us, the reptilian species, the human species, the animal species. Manus are fathers of all the different species. What to speak of just humans, so they're definitely not only within human species. Common misconception. But yeah, so Goloka Vrindavana, Go has referred to the senses and the cows and that which is hidden. Okay, Go. So it's referring to 3 different things like that: secret, the senses, and the cows. So, and the stars also. Go is also referring to the stars, okay, which is very intriguing. Once again, it's referring to all these different correlations all at one time, okay, and so therefore we're dealing with loka is referring to the plane, the realm, state of consciousness of, which permeates all of these things, okay. Would this airport terminal be the Akashic records? Now, the Akashic records, I would say the actual Akashic records, yes. But there's a lot of things called the Akashic records that aren't exactly dealing specifically with Goloka or with the deepest transcendental sciences. A lot of them are dealing with a lot of branch-off things, like things that happened in universal history or stuff that took place like that. At least from what I've seen, people calling, okay, this is an Akashic record, it says this and that. A lot of times you come across contrary information in those, but the Vedic source is always consistent across the board. This is why I prefer the Vedic sources of information. Spiritual perception. So basically, we're all literally in Goloka Vrindavana right now, eternally. We're just currently experiencing a branch off of Goloka, and we're experiencing as if we're in the temporal state, right? It's two hands, two legs, and all these things like that. And of course, our dream world, the imagination. So there's a physical body, there's the subtle body, which consists of the mind and intelligence, and that's basically like the halfway connection point between transcendence and temporality. So the imagination, the creativity, the dreams, the thought process, the desire process is connected to Goloka and connected to our relationship with them, but it's like the intermediary place between reality and temporality illusion. So a lot of times people will think, okay, things that are within the mind realm or the intellectual realm or the imaginary realm are completely altogether illusory entirely, and that's not true at all, actually. They're connected to reality, but they're basically branch off versions of the full reality. So they're still kind of distortions from the full thing, but they're still connected. So let's say, for example, yes, there you go. So let's say Radha and Krishna basically appearing. How could we trace back our genealogy to those specific monas? Is that the correct spelling? It's actually not too complicated, but what happened was about right after the Mahabharata War, 3108 BC, there was a lot of like chaos worldwide amongst a lot of kings, and there was a lot of deviation from the Vedic culture and stuff, so things really went to heck into chaos at that point. Our European genealogies are very much connected to both very well-known Kshatriya kings throughout history, but they're also connected to intermixed with Daitya and Danava genetics, which are basically, the Daityas and Danavas are very much opposed to the Devas, but they're basically a separate group. Many of the Daityas and Danavas are demonic or asuric in nature, and they interbred with people in Europe, and many of the Daityas and Danavas have light skin. And this is why people in Europe are more predominantly light-skinned than elsewhere. It doesn't only have to do with the climate that we're in, it has to do with our genetic ancestry being related to the Daityas and Danavas, whose dwellings beneath the earth, they never get any sunlight whatsoever, at all, underneath the earth. So all their lighting comes from the hoods of serpents, from their self-light, their self-luminous bodies, and or from artificial lighting, from these three sources. So, so basically, our European genetic ancestry is connected to those lines, very much so. The Akashic records are a primary record of a history of the material dimension. Yes, that's what I've seen. A lot of or at least what people claim are the Akashic records today, what people are calling those, seem to be much more like the material histories of temporal universes or other universes or whatever, but ultimately at the end of the day within the temporal realm still, not the eternal transcendental realms. That's at least from what I've seen so far. Well, kind of like that. That was the general trend, Nitai, yes. So basically a lot of the Daitya Danava groups tended to influence the European groups more, and then the Devas, or I should say the Adityas, to be more specific, the descendants of Aditya tended to more be involved with people of India and the surrounding regions more so. And that's where you got the big divide between the European push towards things, which was technological in that direction, sense gratificatory luxury, but still very, refined and advanced. And then in India, you had people still focusing more on the spiritual side of things, not really focusing so much on the other stuff. Yeah, Nanda, there's a very key connection there between Nanda and Nimrod, Kali's mate, not Krishna's dad, another Nanda, exactly. Vrindadas, you are very well read in this, and I'm glad you have mentioned this, because that, I was actually wondering that very much myself. Queen Danu of the Tuatha, exactly. There you go, Presley. So Danu, remember, like we talked about, Kashyapa Muni, who the Caspian Sea is named after, and the Danube River is named after his wife, Danu. And this is why of the Tuatha Danann, the Danavas are the Danavas. They're the descendants, the sons of Danu. And they inhabited ancient Ireland, Scotland. The word Scotland comes from the word Kshatriya, Kshat originally, Scot, which then got corrupted into Scot, what we were talking about. That science you were referring to. What was it called? The refresh my memory what that was called. Basically the science of how things change over. Yeah, the tribe of Danu, exactly. So the name, that is the exact same name you find in the Vedic scriptures. Danu, it's the same name, exactly. And she was the second wife of Kashyapa Muni. So he had Diti was one of his wives, and Diti was worshipped by the Celts, according to that name also. Diti was acknowledged. They also acknowledged Danu. So did and then this is where the Danes come from. So the Danube River comes from her name. Diti comes from Ditya, and then the Adityas, which has the A at the beginning of their name, they tended to influence India more and the people of India more, which is why basically they're kind of to be the subconscious clash between like Indian spiritual culture and European more materialistic culture for a while. That's simply because of the origins of who our ancestors are and the philosophies that they were teaching us regarding transcendence, our existence and stuff. So the Europeans tended to be like, they were spiritually educated, but it was kind of like they were taught and interacted with by the Daityas and Danavas a lot. So basically, many of whom were demonic beings, opposed to the Adityas, so they taught the Europeans in a certain way, basically, about spiritual sciences, about transcendence and stuff. And that you can see that it kind of wears off into our subconscious genetic inclinations too, in many ways. So it's a very intriguing science how that all works. Whereas in India, there tended to be an overall different bend, where now they're starting to flip back and try to fulfill the materialistic sciences, where we're now actually shifting over to more spiritual things. And what's funny is this same weird dynamic happens between the Asuras and the Adityas also, where sometimes the Asuras are actually more in line with devotion to Krishna, spiritual transcendental sciences, more, and then the Devas get more indulgent, and then like they start to get more materialistic, and then it goes back and forth. Then the Adityas up there in the heavenly worlds are more, godly, and then the Daityas are more against Krishna. It actually goes back and forth like this both ways. Same thing that it correlates on Earth too. The tribe of Danu, and there you go. So you see the names are literally the same across the board. You say, yeah, I'm also very curious on your sources on this. Unfortunately, I'm like flies to shit when it comes to the history of the race of man. Yeah, there's a lot of really good sources on it. Actually, if you read just the straight up mainstream, welcome Kakati Das, my beloved. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, I got trapped into driving around for 2 hours in the rain, screaming along to understand on a cloud nine. Hare Krishna. Well, at this point of the video, we're having the really deep esoteric discussions and stuff. We've covered the encoding itself, which is really fun. I encourage you to check out when you get a chance. But you understand the meaning and the purpose and the message of that encoding anyway. So we're now talking about basically the Asura groups and so basically we're talking about Kashyapa Muni and his 3 wives and how that translated to the genealogies of humans on Earth. So how Danu and Diti, by those exact same names, caused the place names of Europe and stuff, and why they were worshipped by the ancient Europeans and stuff, because they were in connection with the Daityas and Danavas, which many of whom were Asuras, and then in India, they tended to be more in connection with the Adityas overall, at least after 3100 BC. But what you brought up, Vrindadas, about Nanda, there was this king who killed off all the other Kshatriya kings. His name was King Nanda, not the father of Krishna, a different Nanda. Oh, there you go, Hare Krishna. So that Nanda, I've also had the thought that he might have been the Nimrod talked about in the Bible also, because he seemed to be on a rampage to destroy. Like it was specifically mentioned in the Bhagavatam, at the end, he was on the rampage to eliminate all the last remaining Kshatriyas. So after the last actual Kshatriya king, who was acknowledged as such, formally acknowledged as such, Kshatragya, I believe his name was, Nanda Maharaja basically came in and he just wiped out any remaining like little Kshatriya kings that were left throughout India specifically and the surrounding regions. And Iran and Persia and that stuff isn't too far from India, and in the past was considered part of India also. So India extended all the way into Iran and actually just up until the borders of the Babylon area as well, which Nimrod then basically took over. So Nimrod, Narmer, and stuff. And there's actually speculation to thought that this Nimrod character might still be alive somewhere in a tomb, either underground, frozen, under Sumeria. Like, there's a lot of people have been claiming this, and it's possible, like, that he was cryogenically frozen and his living entity bodies remain in it. And a lot of people are thinking that this Nimrod guy is also very much so the same Antichrist character talked about, where he got wounded on the head and was revived, and the whole world was this, because this Nimrod guy was obsessed with the mystery of religion stuff, the syncretic Brahmavadi stuff, the Rakshasa influenced ideologies. This guy was a nut job for world domination and false spirituality and stuff. All these really creepy technologies and stuff. So, of aspiring time. There you go. There's a Brigid, pronounced as Breed. She's the goddess of art, smithing the hearth, children love, and always it's happy, beautiful things like Venus or Orania, Aphrodite, literally heavenly love. Teutonic Freya. Yes. And what's really interesting about all these names is they always correlate back to someone or some person in the Vedic text, always, somewhere along the line, which is really intriguing, But it's interesting because the Vedic culture was universal, like as in universal, the whole universe, and then also universal on Earth for a while. It's literally only within the last 5,000 years that Vedic culture has not been worldwide. That people branched off into their own subsects of Vedic culture in different regions, and then the Asuras came down and started influencing different people and stuff, and things like that. In the Middle East, they were much more heavily influenced by the Rakshasas and the Nagas, the reptilians and things, and in Egypt and stuff like that. That's why they go about things the way they do. In Europe, they were much more influenced directly by the Daityas and Danavas themselves, those lines, like a lot of the light-skinned groups also, like the giant groups like that were light-skinned. And then in India and stuff, they tend to be influenced by the Adityas a lot. And let's see here, what was that? Brigid. Yeah, there's Brigid. There's a Sanskrit name that correlates with Brigid. I'm trying to remember. Okay, Stephen Knapp, a guy who I knew personally back in Detroit Temple, he wrote some really good books on this called Proof of Vedic Culture's Global Existence. Very useful books. Me and him had some personal falling outs individually, but his information in those books is great. It's amazing information, very well researched on this particular topic. It goes very much in depth on this stuff. So what's interesting about Hiranyakashipu, his form, he was known for being the worst demon in history. So far that's been known or allowed to exist, and his bodily features, his hair was red, and his skin was like a light shining golden color. So basically like an off-white, like golden skin, more or less. Rod may mean wheel, exactly, yes. And there's a lot of correlations between that, or the correlation between the rod itself and the wheel also, because Ratha means chariot. And then that Ra correlation has to do with rolling, moving forward, like that, stuff like that. So Rukaratha means bountiful chariot, etc. And chariots were used in the Celtic world longer than they were anywhere else in Europe also. That's just very intriguing, which is a remnant of Vedic culture of chariotry. Using chariots is one of the significant aspects of warfare. But in Europe, of course, what was missing in Europe was, in the ancient past, they would have had woolly mammoths, yes, in Europe. But that they seem to have gone more or less like extinct, or fairly early on, comparatively so, even by the time Krishna and the Mahabharata war continued on. So elephants were no longer present, so that was like an element in Europe that was missing for a long time. So the Vedic culture shifted and changed a lot due to climate and the fact that there were no elephants present. And it shifted over into a lot of really different things like that for those two simple reasons. A lot of other things that just weren't available to people in Europe that were available to people in India. Now, so basically what they did was they started shifting it all to other different plant species and stuff. What was actually available in Europe and in front of their faces and things like that. In Welsh, rod means wheel, hence Aryan rod, the silver wheel. There it is, yep. And isn't it my obsession with silver, isn't that interesting, connected with that word, Aryan? Perhaps Nim is correlated with without, separate, independent, to live aboard without the wheel. Interesting. Yes, I think that may actually be what that's referring to. We're all going to find out soon enough, very clearly, who exactly Nimrod is. I'm sure of it, and if he actually is the same as the Nanda. It's also possible, though, that Nimrod was working with Nanda in India. So basically, Nanda could have been doing the stuff in India while Nimrod was conquering the Middle East region. And they could have been working in cahoots together. Nanda is basically working with him, vice versa, etc. whereas Nanda was basically considered the main guy, whereas in other traditions, Nimrod was considered the main guy. That's a possibility too. Who knows 100%? But the point is, I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of this, and we'll figure it out one way or the other. But wouldn't that be really trippy if one of these ancient kings, Nimrod specifically, very likely, were to come back and be revived somehow? Krishna would have allowed it, obviously, if this was going to happen. And he was the guy who ended up wreaking havoc and doing the Mark of the Beast stuff and playing the role of the Antichrist and everything else. Because that's what he was doing back when he was around anyway. And he was like getting really demonically empowered to do all this. He was in cahoots with Kali and everything else, empowering him to make it happen. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least. It would not surprise me. We'll find out in September. That's right. The September. You remember, Natai. I love that. See, well, it might be September of this year or 2 years from now. And regarding that particular point, we'll see. We'll see how much gets revealed about it. I have good feelings about it, though. We'll kind of get to the bottom of that situation. Yeah, this is just fascinating stuff, actually. So what the thing is with like the bodily genetics, right? The bodies we inhabit, that's significant also. Why we inhabit a certain type of body and get embodied in a specific way, related to how we think, how we process reality, what we've done, etc. So we're looking at some situations coming up soon now where we're going to be, everybody's going to start getting insights much more into this stuff, like who they eternally are. All these other, yep, there you go, 9th month. Natalia, you always crack me up. You always pick up on these like very significant points, but that are like super overlooked points. Like, I love it, man. It's great. It's great. So yes. So now you guys are, yeah, we're all on the same page more or less with what's going on here in terms of this information. Like, we know what's happening, what's up, like who's who, etc. So I mean, you look into the Vedic scriptures, you can see the correlation. And in the Bible, actually, the Anakim were a group descended from, were known as being like really gigantic men. And this is very intriguing. Krishna's father's name, another name for Vasudeva, was Anaka Dundabi, specifically Anaka. And then the Anakim were known as a very gigantic group that were very hard to contend with for the early Israelite people, okay? Or the early Shemitic people, whatever you want to call them. Some people deny that the Israelite was a legit term and they actually made it up over time. But the point is, they were fighting a group of people called the Anakim, who were known as being very gigantic, like huge. Now, people in Dvaraka Yuga were known as being very gigantic and very large. So that terminology could be very well referring to descendants of Krishna's father who went over into the Middle East, after the Mahabharata or thereabouts. Because, yes, we can Natai, and we will. But it will be taken over by Harinama Sankirtana and Sri Radha's glories first, then the administrative political leadership stuff will come in. Her name's first, Harinama Sankirtana first, then that stuff will follow. And if there's an apocalypse that happens, maybe you could just physically get in there, forcefully take over, and make Harinama Sankirtana the standard thing everywhere. Either way, it'll happen sooner or later. But you'll notice that a lot of Krishna consciousness has now shifted out of India into other places. A lot of the really, really deep Krishna consciousness has now shifted elsewhere. It's still going on in India in certain circles, certain places, but India has just gotten infested with Mayavadi, Brahmavadi type stuff, top to bottom. Just really bad. Like, I mean, you have devotee pockets here and there in India that are very strong and solid, but it's like that's what they are. They're like little pockets, here and there. Whereas, in other words, we're seeing this general push towards the stuff very much spreading out of India, like big time now. And people are understanding, wow, this is actually a universal, global thing that's always been around, the Vedic culture, which is the source of European culture. People are seeing it. Anunnaki, yes, exactly. And that's connected to the Anunnaki terms. Anakadundabi, Anunnaki, Anu. Anu was actually the name of a king in the Vedic texts. And soon I'll actually print out, I'll see what I can do in terms of scanning it up into a file. So these are the pages that I have. Maybe I can pull it off at Kinko's. I got a list from ceiling to floor of all this. Anu was one of the kings who was a leader of a group of people who inhabited a part of the earth. He was one of the 5, he was an early king. I'm trying to remember, he was either one of the 5 sons of King Yayati, or he was earlier from him. But the point is, there's a king named Anu, who is known about in the Sumerian text also. Now, Anu in Sanskrit, which is very interesting, means atomic. So he was an individual who understood the atomic in-depth nature of the living entity beyond matter. basically. So that's what he was known for, and he understood this very clearly. That's why he was called Anu, because that's what his consciousness was associated with, understanding this correlation, and which is really fascinating actually, because it means atomic. And in Sumeria, what did they do? Anu and then Anunnaki, the host of Anu, were the ones who followed Anu and did what he wanted to do and stuff. And they were very much involved in genetics, human genetics sciences, so molecular sciences, atomic sciences. The mad scientist, exactly. There you go. And then you had these other kings. There was Druyu, who was whose name is actually very strongly associated with likely being behind the term druid. Druyu was one of the 5 sons of King Yayati. And what happened with King Yayati was he scattered his 5 sons throughout different parts of the world. And one of them was sent, okay, you guys go to the west, you go to the south, you go to the east, you go to the north. And that's what he did. And then, that's what it was. The Melecha groups were specifically descendants from Anu, from what I remember. The Melecha being people who completely reject Vedic culture. So pretty much the Middle Eastern areas were very much at clash with the Vedic cultures. So there was a big divide between them and the Persians, and then the people of India and the people of Europe. It's like they had this like imposed different culture that was completely opposite of the Vedic culture, which were known for being descendants of Anu. So the Melecha thing, which basically means jibber jabber, nonsense, craziness, basically. Mad scientists. Yep. And then basically, then you had the Yavanas, who were basically the people who maintained a semblance of Vedic culture, but who were the ones basically behind like the Greeks. And I think, what was it? Turvasu, I think, was behind them or something. Basically, the guys behind the Greek cultures and stuff like that were the Yavanas, who maintained some semblance of Vedic culture, more so than in the Middle East, but then branched off quite a bit. And the ruminants of the last age had great tech. Think the Sumerian Anunnaki. Exactly. Yep. Let's see. We probably have Dom sites here in USA. Berkeley has Jagannath Puri, which will only remain after destruction. Exactly. They'll remain. Enlil was the bad guy, I suspect, with this. This was the Kale. Enlil. There's different versions of the stories. Like some people portray Enlil as the better guy and Enki is the evil one, and vice versa. Him is the better. It all depended on basically who was being seen as the most, the greatest one, because there was like propaganda back in those ages too, political propaganda. Like, oh, this guy's so great, and then this guy's so great. So the Rothschilds stole the Majati story. The Majati story? Refresh my memory of what that is, Natai, so we can actually go further into that, or so I can talk with you more about it. I'm trying to remember which story that is. But yeah, the Rothschilds, these Judaic groups and stuff who use the Talmud and stuff, they get their ideas from these sources, a lot of these original Vedic sources. At Revelation, the people who were hunted in the Middle East found refuge in India and destroyed it. People were hunted in the Middle East. That also happened. There was an influx of people from the Middle East into India. That was a contributor to what kind of degraded India over time. That's a contributor. Not the only source, because there was a lot of within stuff that caused the destruction too. Yep, Enki, the mad scientist of the Anunnaki. That's right. So let's see. It's amazing. Is druid connected to the word for oak? I remember something about it. Yes, definitely. The word druid is connected to the word for oak, and then that ancestor was named Druyus, Druhyus, mentioned in the Vedic texts. And as far as I know, the Harappan civilization in India, they basically, from what the evidence that's being found, is like they dressed this very similar to the way the Druids did. And what's being found evidence-wise based on their civilization is they were purposely creating a branch-off culture from the Vedic culture right in India, right after the Mahabharata War. So that's a very intriguing aspect of history. And then a lot of them booked it out of there to Europe and other places instead of staying in India. Yep, Enki had great affection and consent for his people. Now, here's the funny thing. Like, within all these species and races and stuff, so the Rakshasas, Daityas, Danavas, Nagas, and you have basically different personalities, too. So a lot of times people look at it like, oh, he's a member of the demon species, therefore he's automatically like this, and that's how he is. But it doesn't exactly work that way. It's like, okay, that's his genetic body type, so he's likely to portray these types of characteristics, but just like with us, we're within human society, but we don't behave anywhere near what the majority of humans behave like at all ourselves, but we're still quote-unquote humans. So it'd be like basically somebody looking at us like, oh, because we're humans, we're going to be in this box of how we behave and think. There's many Daityas and Danavas who are in Asuric bodies who are devotees of Krishna and who actually are very good people. And they're not bad people at all. There's many of them who are bad people, but it's like you have the same thing in these other species societies too. Same thing with the Nagas. Some of them are actually good and very regulated. Others are completely evil and vile. The general trend tends to be more of them are evil and vile and selfish, but that's just a general trend. It's not the rule across the board. So it's a very important point to keep in mind. Like a lot of these histories we're reading about, many of them, these people who were in quote-unquote demon species bodies did a lot of really nice things for people, and they ruled people well. They were very regulated. Many of them were actually devotees of Krishna. Maharaj Jasdasi. I'm trying to remember who sent his son around. Let's see here. Jasdasi. If I could see the original Sanskrit spelling, I'd know who you were talking about for sure. I'm trying to remember which one that is, though. Jasdasi. Was he more recent or was he earlier? But yeah, the point is there's this whole worldwide connection with the histories and stuff, and this would probably be, Bali and Prahlada Maharaj, for instance, who are both still alive to this day in this cosmos. At least we know for a fact Bali Maharaj is, for sure. Prahlada Maharaj, who has been alive up until recently, whether he is still alive or not, I'm not 100% sure. Pretty sure he is, though, and they're both dwelling 3 planes below Earth. And they're 100% pure devotees of Krishna. So if we were to go down to the 3rd planet below Earth and talk to Bali Maharaj and Prahlada, they would basically give us a big, huge feast, a prasadam feast. They'd dine with us. They'd sing and dance Harinama Sankirtana with us. That's what we'd experience with Bali and Prahlada if we were to go down there. Whereas a lot of the asuras around them in the other planes and stuff would basically, we would go Harinama Sankirtana, and they'd kind of probably have this really embittered, angry look at us in many cases, because a lot of them are just envious and hateful and self-centered. But because Bali Maharaja is ruling a lot of them, leading a lot of them, he'd be like, well, since you're a devotee and we mess with you, Bali Maharaja is going to harass us and we're going to have hell to pay, basically, from him if we try to mess with you. So even though we're kind of irritated with you, we'll put up with it, type of a thing. It all depends, and it really all depends on which individual asura and how much they individually support Harinama Sankirtana. The general trend amongst them is that they're very much opposed and angry and resentful of it for 2 reasons. They're lustful towards Radha and Krishna, and on top of that, or they want to actually take over Goloka Vrindavana and convert matter into transcendence, basically. To where basically they become the Radhas and Krishnas of Goloka themselves and shift the dynamic around, basically, of that. So let's see. Arad Mahaprabhu came to fill the Tamil gap, which was lost, called Bhakti Movement in India. Yes, I can listen to your content from my phone. Okay. Yeah. So we got into some other interesting territory. In fact, I'll do whole videos. The Jadasi who killed last Kshatriyas. Yeah, there was a that rings a bell. There was a guy named that who killed last Kshatriyas. Just got to get all my papers out in front of me. These Kali Yuga memories, I guess. But anyway, so all of this will be good topics for a different later video, and stuff like that. I think a few last things I was wanting to talk about, though. But yeah, so the point is, today's basic topic was the encoding. Okay, so the encoding has now you guys understand and see how all of these things are connected. So therefore, with this history, with the sciences, with geography, you can understand how these things are connected very clearly. You can understand fractals, how mathematics works, music works, art, and just keep everything very simple. Simple for the simple. This is the idea of Krishna consciousness. Don't complicate things. Just intuitively understand how things are connected, and understand that the sciences are not complex. They're very streamlined, simple to understand. And this is the beauty of the Vedas. 7 planets by Dhruva is a galaxy. Oh, actually, that's significant. If you've watched the flat Earth video, there's there's huge concentric rings of land and water, 7 of each. Remember, today she referred to the 2 sevens. She's also referring to those 7 oceans and 7 pieces of land. But anyway, there's 7 of them in both cases. Once again, 7's correlating with the water again. Okay, and those surround this little tiny part we're on. So we're at a little south part of Jambudvipa. Those other 7 you guys are talking about are the ones that are surrounding our little part of land. So we would have to first sail beyond the ice ring thing around us now, which seems to be artificially put up recently, because our Antarctica used to be like a tropical paradise thing. So it seems like an Asuric individual or group or whatever purposefully changed the climate of that ring thing to make it harder for us to get out of here to the other regions. And it seems like they themselves put an atmospheric dome type thing around us in recent history, which is like literally right around the time Lord Chaitanya appeared or thereabouts. Seems to be when like the maps differ, because there's maps that correlate to Antarctica which show the land ice free accurately around the 1500s times, which was right around Chaitanya appeared. So it could have been possible that the Asuras, but the point is, yeah, it could have been possible that the Asuras put something around this little part afterwards. But beyond that, we'd have to sail a really long distance around that big first ocean ring, then get to the next big land ring, and each one of them is bigger and bigger and bigger. These are huge concentric circles of land, and they are flat disc plains shapes. There's mountains and terrain features on them, but the overall shape is flat and circular, not spheres. It's all on a big, huge plain. Let's see here. Flat Earth surrounded by... Oh, Jadasi, you're saying Maharaj Yayati. Okay, that's what I mentioned. I didn't pronounce it. Yayati, not Jadasi. Maharaja Yayati. Yes, he's the one who sent his kids around. Correct. Flat Earth surrounded by arc spheres, like the zero and the line that runs through it. There you go. Exactly. Perfect correlations, perfect understanding of that very simple concept. Okay, antimatter, matter explosion. How to spread Haranam with that energy. Well, here's the thing. Antimatter is actually just coming from transcendence, that type of thing. Yeah, you can message me privately anytime, Nitai. Feel free. I won't carry the video on too much longer, but I'm really enjoying this conversation, so I want to finish up before I go off. I'm thinking I have a tendency to do this too, because separating videos out a lot more. So I may have to later edit this one or something and put it on a separate video. But anyway, what kind of vehicle we need? Can we go private? Oh, you're talking about going privately beyond the ring. That's what you're talking about, beyond that land boundary thing. Yeah, it's possible. It can be done, but there's basically such a huge block around it right now that's under a certain group of Rakshasas' domination, where they're making it extremely difficult to get past it, or to make it out. And the people who do make it out, they either don't come back, and the Asuras either grab them and force them to stay living in their societies, or they choose to do so, or they're getting killed, or who knows exactly what's happening to them. But the point is, we're really going to need Bali Maharaj's assistance to be able to get past that area of land, that ice ring thing, which at many occasions I prayed and asked for Bali Maharaj's help in many of these areas, actually. And so he can help us. He's able to help us out. But the question is, will he? And what is going on there? Why is he allowing that to still happen? Because Bali Maharaja, he's able to put a stop to what a lot of these other Asuras are doing. He can stop it. He can let us get past and access the lower planets and visit him and stuff like that. He's capable of it. But there's a lot more going on, obviously. That's a lot of recent developments, too. So obviously, Bali Maharaja himself is facing a lot of resistance and difficult opposition from other Asuras around him. That's pretty clear, too, at least at this current time in history. Otherwise, there's a lot more he'd be doing. At least we have him to thank, because he's protecting us from the Asuras, the other Asuras, doing an all-out invasion of starting to massacre people on Earth and stuff, like with what Hiranyakashipu did. He's stopping Asuras from doing that, at least. But we'll see. It's going to be connected to, because once people all realize the Earth is flat and circular, welcome Sanjib Roy. Once people all realize that, there's going to be this huge push to get past that land ring thing around us, of this little ice pond area, to actually physically see and access the lands beyond this portion of Earth. There's going to be a huge push for it, and eventually it's going to have to happen. So we're eventually going to get access to maps beyond that area, if all goes properly and well. So, okay, here's the thing. This is what I wanted to go into a little bit before I close off. They do actually, yes. It all depends on who they're in cahoots with, though, because the Rakshasas are, and Kali himself specifically, is empowering the individuals who are in the corrupt. He's falsely empowering them in their temporal current states with like the money and control of wealth and stuff, and they think they're these big shots, but they're going to be screwed over hellishly after death. But yeah, they do mess around there. The government does mess around a lot in Antarctica for that reason, to stop us from going there and going past it. But okay, here's the thing: with Sri Radha, the way she does things in terms of setting things up, etc., is that in terms of what her predictions are, her prophecies are. So when she encodes them, or she sends them in the message or mentions this, there's still the free will of people involved. So it's not like, okay, Sri Radha says this, she predicts this is going to happen. It's like she's saying she wants this to happen, this is what will happen to one degree or another, but our free will determines very much so how, to what degree, and in what way that actually plays out, what she's predicted and encoded. You see? So a lot of times people will say, oh, okay, you're making a prediction or this exactly, and this, that. That's not exactly how predictions work, because the free will is still at play, and people still have choices to make. It's not a set in stone exactly 100% what choices we'll make. That's still within our free will. But the general trend will still play out that way, according to how she's described and talked about and is right now. So just a quick clarification on that too. When people start popping in, okay, what about this prediction? What about that? It's more like a fluid thing. It's not like a rock thing where it's like, okay, this is exactly going to play. The planets are also states of mind and emotions. I did a video about the planetary spheres from a dream that I had. If we keep digging Earth, where will we get? Asuras cause trouble through humans? Yes. Sailor 5. Oh yeah, Raksha government. Yes, they do cause trouble through humans. They're actually the ones behind the corrupt governments, because humans being in agony and pain and anguish on Earth and engaged in lustful sexual fixations on Earth are directly strengthening the Asuras day by day. And so therefore they keep pushing these things on us to empower themselves. Yep. Raksha government, Rakshasa. Now what's interesting is Rakshasa means to not protect. So isn't this very intriguing how this works? The government isn't protecting the citizens. It does. So Raksha means to protect. Rakshasa means that one who withdraws protection and is in a ability to protect you, but they won't protect you. So the Rakshasas are huge creatures. They're very powerful, and they can protect humans if they chose to do so, but they don't. They withdraw their protection from humans. And this is really intriguing, actually, what that name actually means in Sanskrit, the actual etymology. So when it came to Lord Brahma, and when their original creation, they withdrew protection from him. The Rakshasa group, they said, don't protect Lord Brahma, when the Yakshas were the ones that went after him and said, eat him alive, basically. So the Yakshas were the ones that went after him to eat him. The Rakshasas were the ones that said, okay, let him eat him. We're not going to protect him. That's a really trippy, really creepy thing in history, actually. Psychic vampires. Even as humans, yes. Sailor 5, right? This is awesome. Okay. So okay, I'll just take it straight up to the 3-hour mark, and then I'll close it at that point. That'll give me a time frame to work with. There's one now. Yep. Psychic vampires. There's a lot of psychic vampires around. Ettins, perhaps? Who's the Ettins character? I'm not sure who that is exactly. But yeah, this is all going to be ever more revealed as the years are going forward. Because check this out. This artificial lighting, this LED stuff, it's something that's in front of our faces every day. This is literally killing us. Like, this LED lighting is literally killing us. Not even just the effects it has on us, the actual light going into our eyes, into our brains and stuff, is causing physiological damage. This is why prostate cancer is becoming so common. Breast cancer, all these other things, combined with all the other filth in the water and everywhere else, fluoride. The lights themselves are causing huge amounts of damage. Not even including just the Wi-Fi, the radiation stuff. So I'm switching back to these older bulbs, but literally we're surrounded by this pool of things set up around us to either force us to join the Asuras and become like them, genetically and otherwise, or completely resist it altogether and basically just have to constantly fight our whole lives, of course with Radha and Krishna's protection, but very difficult and challenging lives. Basically, it's like, which way do you choose? Do you choose the easy luxury way that basically slow kills you, and could kill you quickly depending on your genetic structure, like in your 30s or 40s or earlier, or do you actually go the other route of resisting all these tech and actually shifting back as much as possible, as quick as possible? Um, yeah, it definitely doesn't surprise Rakshasa. Why don't Rakshasas care for us? Because here's the thing. This is another intriguing thing to remember about Rakshasas. It was said in the scriptures that when there was a human king who was turned into a Rakshasa, right, by a curse. And what happened was the vampires, they're kind of like a subset of Rakshasas. Not all Rakshasas are vampires and vice versa. There's also other species like Pishachas and things like that like prey on humans and stuff that aren't Rakshasas specifically, but they are other demonic species. So there's different, like there's jinns, Djinni, which are another demonic species mentioned in the Vedic texts, who are known oftentimes for inhabiting like little dolls and things like this and physical objects and stuff, and moving them and whatnot and making them attack people. But so yeah, all of these horror movie stories or concepts, they come from real beings that actually exist and can do these things. But with Harinama Sankirtana spreading throughout the world, their influence is much less overall, especially on devotees, if not completely absent. Okay, Etons and Jotun. You were spelling it according to the original pronunciation. Yes, the Jotuns and the Etons. That's right. The giants from Norse lore. Yeah, I remember the Jotuns, but I did not remember the Etons. And what were the Etons known for, Presley? Again, refresh my memory on that. I mean, I remember the Jotuns were associated with like the ice, like the north, the cold, that type of thing, and they were associated with one specific aspect of like knowledge or something, like knowledge of the past or future or whatever. And then the Etons were associated with the other side. But they are connected to different groups of asuras and stuff. But here's what's interesting about the Rakshasa groups specifically is that when this guy, this is a very intriguing insight for us, when this king who started off as like more or less a devotee of Krishna, not a bad person, he was turned into this Rakshasa, and he was overcome with this urge. So what happened, though, is specifically what it mentions in the Vedic texts, was when he became a Rakshasa, he saw living entities everywhere. That is specifically what was mentioned. Now, I looked at that, and I really deeply meditated on what that statement actually is meaning. It didn't say first that he had this unquenchable desire to eat people. That came after him seeing living entities everywhere. So I was looking at that, and I was like, wait a minute. So check this out. If we were actually to basically go from most of us are aware that living entities are everywhere. Like, we're aware they're in the form of bacteria. We're aware that they're all over the place, in the subatomic molecules, in others. We're aware that they're everywhere, but we're not actually seeing living entities everywhere. You see what I'm saying? Whereas in a Rakshasa's case, they're literally visually seeing living entities everywhere. Now, I was like, that's really trippy to me, because what that means is, for them, they're like seeing everything as like this energetic suction field type thing, where they can see the physical features of people and stuff, yes, but they're also seeing every single little bit of bacteria in our body, every single little subatomic molecule. They're like seeing all of it at the same time. And I was like, holy crap. So if you think about it, yeah, giants, exactly, and they are giants, and they can shapeshift and all sorts of different things. And so it's like, if you're seeing the world, and if you're seeing everything around you as all living beings all over the place, think about it. I mean, it's like when you're eating, you're basically processing whatever you're putting in your mouth as being a huge numbers of living entities that you're ingesting. Let's say you're eating an apple or something, you're seeing all the bacteria in that apple. So it's like your perspective towards food, towards feeding, and towards like all this stuff is going to be totally different from the way the perspective of a human processing eating food distinguished from not food is, right? And it's going to correlate to how your consciousness processes everything you experience. So you're going to get this like craving for eating living beings more, and you're going to like get this fuel from eating them, and that's going to correlate naturally to where the energy sources are the most light and bright and refined and holy and clean are going to be the ones you go after the most, which is the sages, beautiful females, innocent children, all sorts of stuff like this. And this is why the Rakshasas fixate on the most innocent, the most pure, the most clean for their feeding sources, because they're already seeing all living entities everywhere, and then the places where they're seeing sacredness and cleanliness, they're seeing cleaner food. I say it's just pretty easy to understand. So they're seeing food everywhere, basically, and then they're seeing cleaner food that's more ideal in the form of devotees, sages, innocent women, and innocent children. So, yeah, it's really trippy when you look at it this way. And then you can kind of actually understand, holy crap, it actually makes sense why it's so hard for them to resist craving human flesh and stuff. It's going to be like an effort because they're seeing and feeling everything as a food source. You know what I mean? And that's actually a type of curse on their consciousness by Krishna's arrangement for their sinful activities and things, mixed with desire for great power over the cosmos. Yeah, the Rakshas do care for us on a platter, exactly. So either they kill us directly and eat us, or they cause us to fight in wars. The Fire World, yes, the Ettins are from Muspelheim, the Fire World. Vampire show with claws. Oh, the evil Santa Claus version, yeah, that was cool actually. That's correlating to that demonic group of species though. Whereas the Jotuns are from Jotunheim, the Ice World, right? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, what's really interesting about that, there's obviously some association with the Arctic and Antarctic with the Jotuns, and then the Fire World being like warmer regions and warmer climates, likely, and relates or underneath the Earth in the near like volcanoes and fire caverns and stuff like that. And there's Vedic histories that talk about that actually, like associates of Agni Deva, and like there's living beings everywhere, all over the place. But depending on the climate that they're in and their surroundings, determines like what what body type they have to have and what their experience is. So there's so many trippy things that are coming to like fruition right now, and so many technologies that are like they were considered sci-fi just not too long ago that are like becoming mainstream. This is all very much so under Mayadanava's influence and Bala's influence. Bala being the son of Mayadanava, who's behind all of the basically like the prostitute type stuff. So like pornography, the synthetic sex doll stuff, all this stuff, very much so Bala is behind. And he dwells 70,000 feet beneath the earth, and that's his plane. It's called Atala. And the term Atala is actually, potentially could be connected to the term for Atlantis, actually, because he's underneath the earth. So you were asking, Natai, if you were to dig deep down, eventually you would get to the point where you'd hit the, so we'd have to dig beneath where we're at right now. I think we'd have to dig at least, we'd have to dig up to 70,000 miles underneath the ground. Maybe less, maybe more. It all depends. And there are tunnel systems and cave systems that lead all the way to the lower planets. But they're really long tunnel systems, and you have to take like Vimanas and craft to get there fast enough. Because walking that whole distance would be a really long time, and you'd have to stay at like little, hotels or little places along the way getting down there, which I'm sure also do exist. But the first one you hit is where basically it's full of like all these, it's full of all this like these celestial prostitutes and stuff. So basically demonic prostitutes, they'll snatch people up who go down there and basically force you to indulge in sex with them for like ages and ages, like thousands of years or whatever. So the son of Mayadanava is behind all that stuff. And then Mayadanava himself, which is 4 planes below Earth, lower down, he's especially behind all the tech, the machinery, and the stuff we're seeing now manifest on Earth. That stuff's going on down there in the 4th plane below Earth. It's stuff that he's familiar with, and adventure in time. Yes, let's see. This material will be perfect like Vaikuntha. It will be perfect for the devotees purely devoted to Radha and Krishna for a time, and will be experienced as being like Goloka for a time within this 10,000 year time frame for those individuals. For many other individuals, it will not be experienced as such, though. No. Kamis, exactly. Demonic prostitutes, correct. And so basically, like Adventure in Time, that's exactly it, yep. So what's going on now, what's likely going to happen when the surface worlds, and this is me just throwing it out there as a potential scenario, when the surface world becomes much more like the lower planets in nature, technologically, the way things are set up, visually, once people are getting like chipped in the forehead and the hand and stuff, likely at that time, Fire Kingdom and the Ice Kingdom, yep. Likely at that time we're going to run into a situation where then the Asuras are going to start sending up these kamis, these demonic prostitutes, up to the surface, basically, to allure huge numbers of the populace to their worship and glorification and stuff, along with the Asuras behind them, so Bala, which is, and then Mayadanava. Now what's interesting, they worshipped Baal in the ancient Middle East and Israel. Now, it's curious, were they actually worshipping Balarama, according to, because he was symbolized with like a club and stuff, which Balarama was noted to use, or were they actually worshipping Bala of the lower planets in the Middle East and sacrificing children to him in those sacrifices? That's my thought on it, actually, because Baal is connected to the word Baal, basically. So Bala Bala is how his name is spelled, and he's the demon lord over those like prostitutes and stuff. And then think about it, the whore of Babylon, right? Yeah, and then the commies were created by Mayadanova. They were created by him and his son, basically. So his son was Bala, and basically Mayadanova created them initially, but his son basically took over the reins, and that became especially his domain. And where his aspect of focus was more on the prostitute stuff, whereas Mayadanov, his father's focus was more on the tech stuff still. It's that tech aspect of things, basically. But they're both cross-involved in both the tech and the stuff like that. So it's really interesting how we're seeing this thing play out in the world. How there's this insane pornography obsession worldwide. There's these synthetic sex dolls being produced and stuff like this. So many things like this happening. And then, a lot of these Illuminati guys, they're known for doing these mock child sacrifices to Molech and to Baal and stuff like that, who could be referring to Bala, down the demon, underneath the earth and stuff. And what's interesting is they talk about the abyss, casting these people to the abyss and all this stuff, Abaddon and whatnot. Well, the abyss is always like basically, and then the bottomless pit is a symbolism thing. It's always referring to like underneath the earth, trapping them underneath the earth, sticking them down there. And it's always beneath the earth, which we know what's beneath the earth. It's those 7 lower planes beneath the earth, 7 and 7, journey to the center of the earth. Yeah, all of these things are being encoded in these movies by these forces. Svartalfheim, exactly, yeah. And I really plan to travel to a lot of these places as soon as possible. Inside the earth, I do a lot of exploration in the mountains, looking for entrances to inside the earth and stuff. And there's some sites that I find pretty promising for this to potentially. I might land some locations actually for this. But of course, you always want to go armed and be prepared, because you never know who you're going to run into down there. It's going to be a friendly Asura or a not so friendly Asura. You always want to be aware of what's going on, and having Radha Krishna's names at the forefront for sure. So yes, Svartalfheim, the realm of the dark elves, the gnomes and dwarves. That's the first level below, at least in North Thor. Yep. And yeah, there's an intermediate like cave areas between here and Attila, which is where the vast plains. So basically, it'd be a thing where you'd end up getting down to like the top surface roof earth area beneath earth, and then you look down and be like, holy crap, and then you'd see like the cities and the vast plain underneath you of Attila. And if you don't, that's right, the hellish pimp lord, exactly. And if you don't have the ability to fly or hover or in a craft to gradually levitate you down, you just end up probably falling from that part. Once you get to the bottom, you get through it. That's and you like fall all the way down the 70,000 miles or whatever, or somebody catches you and takes you down. But yeah, I've been wanting to at least visit all these Asuric realms underneath the earth, to at least talk to these individuals face to face within my lifetime. I may get the chance. Who knows? Krishna may arrange it. They know about who I am and what I'm doing on Earth and stuff. I definitely want to visit Bali Maharaja, but I have to go through 2 other things to get to him. And then, of course, just beneath Attila, there is Vittala, which is where Lord Shiva in one of his forms also dwells. Vittala. So Lord Shiva is down there also. So it's like a Asuric society is basically just like it's like society on Earth, just a lot of different demons are down there mixed in with. Some of them are devotees, a lot of them aren't, basically. But it's like a whole society, careful, exactly. You always got to be cautious. So I'm always armed, at least a sword and at least one long range weapon, whether it's a bow or something I can throw, a javelin or whatever. At least some basic equipment. Because at least most of the Asuras, a lot of times they like to fight according to honorable principles. So they like to fight according to sword to sword, sword and shield, things like that. The Asuras tend to be cool like that. Anybody who basically adheres to a semblance of Vedic culture, sometimes they might be of the type where they'll just blast you with like a plasma beam or something, or just roast you from a distance. But usually, in a lot of cases, the Daichas and Danavas like a good fight, a good scrap. And they'd rather like fight you sword and shield or whatever, which is cool about them. One feature about a lot of them that I like. Same thing with the Adichas. They tend to be like that too. So people who follow Vedic culture to any degree, they like to fight according to honorable principles to show their skill with a certain weapon or with a certain type of combat or something. Stuff like that. How crazy is Operation Barbarossa? They almost had Russia, then what happened? Barbarossa. I'm not too familiar with that one. I'll have to actually look into that one more often. I'm sure there's a lot to it. About 12 minutes left here. Cool. Well, I appreciate all of you staying on for this long and engaging with me in these very stimulating discussions about these very deep topics. I find this very enlivening and uplifting to discuss and to delve further into. And you guys have seen we've covered a lot of different territory. Tulsi Wand battle. There you go. Yeah. We've covered a lot of different territory and so many different topics all in one clean sweep. And this is the thing. All the arts, sciences, and topics are interconnected. History is interconnected. They're all connected together, melded. They're not to be treated as as individual separate things. So the combat sciences are connected with geography, with art, with music, with writing, words, song, music, dance, transcendental sciences, all together, balled up, connected. So this is how we should always look at all topics and all scenarios, because the idea is all devotees worldwide can be polymaths, which means you can be skilled in so many different areas and highly skilled in many different areas, both knowledge-wise and dexterity-wise with your hands, both. And this is the ideal we want to achieve ultimately. Kami succubi, exactly. That's interesting, Vrinadasa. Those kamis may actually be who are appearing as the succubi, actually. That's very possible. That is very possible, actually, that's going on. Yeah, to drain the vital life and the vital force of mankind through semen loss and through sucking out the semen, basically, and draining the life force that way. And on top of that, draining energy in other ways, messing with the chakras and things. Like a video game, that sounds like fun. Yeah, exactly. See, like what's really cool about the Vedic histories and like the actual histories of the world is things actually played out in very epic ways in the real sense of the term, where the kings were the lords, were the demons and stuff like this. They were inclined to show off their skill in fighting, and they more so than they were inclined to be cheap or disgraceful in a fight in most cases. So if they found that somebody was wanting to challenge them or take them out or defeat them, they would be like, okay, this little puny human king or whatever is trying to take me out or defeat me. I'm going to face him in a sword fight or this or that or whatever and kick his butt that way, rather than just, blast or flick my finger and make him die. Because the Asuras, most of them have mystical abilities where they can flick their finger and just kill people at a distance just by willing it. But most of them don't do that because they know that they have to face karmic reactions if they do that. So even though they may not like the karmic results and reactions they have to face, they're aware that they have to face them. So they're calculated in what they do in those regards. So usually they'll be more inclined to actually fight and actually give you a fighting chance against them rather than just immediately taking you out. But that's actually part of the reason why they do a lot of things they do also, why they don't just all out directly invade completely and kind of do things subversively, getting us to worship them and stuff indirectly and stuff like that. Dr. Zhivago. I'll definitely look into that in Thai. I'll make a point of it for sure. So, so yeah, we went from how to read numbers all the way to like the human history to the Asuric species to what's going to happen in the future to, oh man, Radha's glorious. It's amazing. I mean, the amount of things we can learn every day is just, it's mind-boggling. The power of numbers, is it agreeable? Well, the power in numbers is transcendental. So the numbers always have their power eternally. There's no question of numbers having power or not having power. It's just a matter of how are you using that power. Okay? And so what does the modern world work on? It works on these principles of people using numbers, so number combinations, fractals, to cause electricity to flow certain ways, to cause accessing of energy frequencies and waves through fractals, through the which is like the cause of Wi-Fi and cellular technology. It comes from these number combinations, okay, and using numbers in various ways. Yantras, so number machines, number-based machines, basically. It all works off the same principle of transcendence being infinitely powerful and real, and then taking that reality and harnessing that reality in various ways in the temporal. And the karmic reactions have to do with misusing Radha and Krishna's mercy for our own gratification, to harm others or to get a one-up on others. And then the proper use of these numbers is to uplift others in their relationships with Radha and Krishna, and to bring them joy and happiness in the process. So yeah, it all depends on how they're used and what your intention is behind using them. Because all of these things we're talking about now are going to very soon become mainstream, and have been becoming mainstream slowly but surely as time has gone on, last few decades. But what is the most important thing and factor here is whatever it takes to remember the forms of Radha and Krishna. This is the most important factor. Never getting sidetracked to other things. Where you're seeing Radha's facial features 24/7, her bodily features, and being constantly inspired by seeing her beauty everywhere, directly face to face. Seeing Krishna's beauty everywhere, face to face. His features, his form, his body. Their skin colors, how they're interacting and moving with each other. So understanding that the sun is light because the sun ultimately emanates the light from Sri Radha, the golden light color. The sky is the bluish color because when Krishna is in the presence of Sri Radha, and when her light is shining onto his skin and his body, the light is that lighter bluish color. When he's by himself directly, not emanating light from his form also, or I should say when he's not specifically emanating light from his blackish form, then his form is much darker, much more blackish. When he is emanating light from his form is that more bluish hue. And then especially more so, that lighter blue when he's in contact with Sri Radha. So this ratio of their connecting, and this is how the cycles of the day work. The day and night, so the day is predominated over by Sri Radha's skin color, the shining from her body, and then the night is predominated over the skin color of Sri Krishna, the black. That's why night is black and dark, because that's Krishna's skin color manifesting through matter. And then the day is Sri Radha's skin color, and the light from her skin manifesting through matter. Yeah. Before one spell, you say Nitai, Nitai, Nitai Radha, show me Krishna. I love it. That's wonderful. It's a lot of things you say Nitai, Nitai are very cute, but they're genuine and real, but they do make me chuckle in a friendly way a lot of times. I wonder what happened for America's 300th birthday, 2076. That'll be very interesting, won't it? To see what happens then. I'll probably still be trucking it around maybe till about that time, maybe till the 2080s or whatever. I don't know, it seems like to be some astrological prediction where I die in combat in the 2080s or something, or at least when I'm in my 80s. I think that might be the 2060s or something, but it'll be epic for sure, definitely. But the point is, yeah, if what we're doing throughout the day and our discussions are leading us away from the form of Radha and Krishna, their forms, then those activities are materialistic temporal activities, and it's going to be leading us into syncretic Brahmavadi, mental speculation, all this other stuff, which has a beginning and has an end, which isn't eternal, you see. But if paying attention to numbers, visuals, music, sounds, encodings, other interactions we have face to face with others, paying attention to what's going on as it relates to their forms, that's devotional service, that's devotional consciousness, see. So it's very important for our brothers and sisters, if we see them getting overly fixated on trying to figure things out instead of understanding what they already know for certain about Radha and Krishna, then we can just always remind them, being like, yeah, propaganda is very big, yes. We can just remind them that, are you seeing Radha and Krishna right now? And are you focusing on their form, their beauty? Or are you focusing on some other factor? And if the answer is that we're focusing on some other factor or some other thing or aspect of either them or something else, then we can know we're branching off that much more from what devotional service is, devotional consciousness. Devotional service is all about their forms. It's all about their forms, their face-to-face, their appearance, their looks, which are beyond matter, beyond temporal, beyond physical, but eternally existing and more solid than matter. Infinitely more solid than matter. But even though they're infinitely more solid than matter, they're infinitely softer than anything we could fathom also. So both. This is the nature of transcendental form, completely beyond all material concepts and ideas of form entirely, but formful, completely and full and absolutely nonetheless. See? Only if you get silver for propaganda and set free to do devotional things. That's right. If you only use it for devotional purposes and to set the world free, will silver actually have its proper use? And silver is associated with Lord Nityananda and Lord Balarama specifically, which is very interesting actually. So that's important to keep in mind. Spot on. Focus upon Radhe. Yay. Exactly. So you'll notice all of these topics are very good and interesting and useful to know and to be familiar with. But you'll realize this and you'll see this. Because Sri Radha is within everyone and everything, 100% of the time, she's within every molecule, subatomic particle, every little bit of bacteria, everywhere, everything. She's in all of this stuff and still independent and personal, independent of those things. Understanding this about Sri Radha and seeing her like this, you can actually, by doing this, you actually understand more about all these things than even the people who specialize in those particular sciences. Because you're understanding more about these topics by seeing the person behind them than just the topics themselves, you see. Yeah, and so that's the thing. Seeing Radha and Krishna's forms in everyone and everything is what devotional service is. That's what devotional service has always been and eternally will be. Seeing other things or other aspects of stuff or whatever, aside from their forms, is what temporal existence, illusion, the illusory energy has always been. Branch offs from them, their forms. So, yeah, it really comes down to that simple. It is not any more complicated than that. And you say, why stop at 80? Live on forever. That's right. Well, in that case, I'm just talking about this temporal current physical body. I do live forever beyond the body already. So in Krishna consciousness, when we leave when the body gets left, it's basically just the shell and the vessel that's there, just like in the Celts they always talk about. The soul continues on forever. But I agree with you absolutely. The whole thing of stopping the temporal body at 80 in combat would be to live forever beyond the body. Now, I plan on using life extension tech that I can access outside of and without the mark of the beast by Radha and Krishna's arrangement, and use it to spread devotional services for as long as possible and to maintain youth. But however long that actually takes, there's no guarantee. They could arrange that I leave my body today or tomorrow, in 40 years or 80 years or whatever, and that part of things I'm not in control of. They can arrange when I leave my body. The part that I am in control of, though, is what consciousness I'm going to be in, whatever situation they arrange that I'm put in, basically. And with the moon, there you go. That I can... So, as living beings, our independence is infinite within our relationship with Radha and Krishna. So we have our eternal preference, and this is really intriguing how this works, actually. Silver equals moon, quicksilver equals mercury. Exactly. There you go. So genuine silver equals the moon. False silver, which misleads, is mercury, which leads to death, which is basically right next to gold. So if people have the false, misleading ideologies or philosophies or whatever, they will die from it, which is mercury. Fake silver. Cheap silver. Yes, great video. Do not say because I will watch again. Mr. Zivago, do not say because I will watch again. Alright, Krishna. That's funny. Shvaranandani. I like that. So check this out. This is how this works. So devotees have been asking this question for a long time. A lot of people have been looking for a solid explanation on it. And it's actually a very simple explanation. So, if we have free will at all, even if the free will is minute as living beings, right? If we have that free will, and if Radha and Krishna know everything, in other words, if they know everything about the past, the present, and the future eternally, they know everything about us, how is it that that can actually still be free will then? Because they know what we're going to choose, so how is it that since they know what we're going to choose, we're still actually choosing it, and then it's still open in the air? I once knew a vampire insatiate. She loved me telling her about Krishna's killing of demons and other bad guys. There you go. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And what's really interesting with a lot of those demonic females, they'll actually become very intrigued by Krishna consciousness in very interesting ways. They'll actually become quite stunned and attracted in many ways to the pastimes of Krishna. It creates very interesting dynamics a lot of times. Because you can inspire demons in Krishna consciousness too. They're not completely barred from being inspired in devotion. It's just a matter of are you going to inspire them that way or not? Even then, the body can still live on forever so long that the crown chakra is correctly on. That is true. The body can live on forever, materially speaking, or I should say forever as long as the material universe exists. And there are a certain set of sages who do actually live on that long by Radha and Krishna's arrangement. In fact, there's a few individuals alive from Kurukshetra's time, Kritavarma and Kripacharya, who will be living specifically for the next 427,000 years, up until when Krishna appears again. Basically, they're just living in hidden places right now on Earth. But they're still alive in the same bodies. Yep. They've been granted this youth, and Ashvatthama is also still alive. He'll be alive still and appear at the end of when Krishna appears also. He was cursed to walk the earth for 30,000 years in disgrace. But yep, but he actually becomes a pure devotee. So Ashvatthama becomes a pure devotee over the course of having to wander around those 30,000 years. Gave him really long time to contemplate and perform tapasya and stuff and purify himself from his sins. So he becomes a pure devotee and a very solid supporter of Krishna when he appears as Kalki 427,000 years out from now, thereabouts. So the way this works, this is very cool, and put this to memory every day. Always understand this. Because we are infinitely unique individuals, Radha and Krishna know who we are on the deepest level eternally. So they know what our eternal preference is eternally. So even though we have the free will to choose what we want to do, we will for certain always choose things which are branch-offs and related to our eternal real relationship with them, always, because that's who we are eternally. The living entity will never do anything or think anything outside of their eternal Svarupa consciousness completely. There will always be a connection to that, okay? So that even though we have this freely open to choose and decide and to do what we want to do, it's always within the scope of who we eternally are with them, you see? So for them, there is no guesswork at all because we're eternally that living entity, and they know who we are, what our preferences are eternally, how they eternally interact with us. So whatever we choose, we're simply just choosing a specific. So it's like this. It's not so much looking at it from, okay, what you will choose or this or that, because choices, every moment is an eternity, right? Every day is a lifetime, right? This like the thing is encoded there. It's a saying. So every moment is an eternity, okay? So whatever you're choosing, you've already eternally chosen because reality is beyond space and time. And Radha and Krishna are interacting with you, and basically it's like this infinite grid of like things you could freely choose and go to. They know which ones you're going to choose, even though they don't force you to do those things, because they understand who you are in your nature. So they understand, oh, he's going to end up choosing this, but he's still going to be the one choosing it. But I know how to respond with him in this way. If he decides to choose this way, I know how to respond with him in this way. But it's like they're lovingly interacting with you and leaving everything open, even though they know what you're going to choose based on your eternal preference. But it's not set in stone. So it's not like, okay, they're imposing on you to choose it. It's like you're automatically choosing it yourself, right? And that's how it works. Free will is mind-boggling. Radha Krishna is sharp sword. India or Siberia? Are they in India or Siberia? Who are you talking about, my friend? They. So yeah, the point is the same. The population will continue to increase. During Krishna's time when he appeared, the population was at 30 billion plus on average. And at least in the transcendental Goloka, or transcendental Dvaraka, whether that actually is manifested on the earth Dvaraka or not, Krishna has like something like in the 8 quadrillion personal bodyguards or something like that. Or Krishna's father Vasudeva has that many like personal bodyguards. But I'm pretty sure that's in the transcendental Dvaraka, and not necessarily on the earth Dvaraka. Because, I mean, that's a huge number of personal bodyguards. Like, that's huge. And that's not even including the rest of the world's population. I mean, so I'm like, yeah, it's a transcendental Dvaraka. That would make sense to me. But the point is, even on Earth, even the actual physical population on Earth when Krishna appeared 5,000 plus years ago was 30 billion plus. And right now we're only at like 7 billion. So the myth of overpopulation is a complete myth. If things are managed properly on Earth like they were in the Vedic culture and will be under our under the proper administration, the Earth can hold pretty much an uncounted number of people. And then, of course, periodically at huge, vast ages of time, huge, gigantic wars end up happening to clear off the demonic and reestablish the innocent. And of course, good people do die in those wars also, and they transcend as well. But the point is, Earth can hold vastly more people than we have now. So people saying, oh, the Earth's overpopulated, this and that, that's a complete lie. They've bought into the Rakshasa propaganda on that one. It's just mismanagement is the problem. It's not the population itself. It's the mismanagement of resources is the issue. The population will be cut in half where the good, i.e. the original humans, will live. Yep, that's pretty much what's going to happen. So, okay, without any further ado, I will bid you a fond evening, my friends. Forever is just a very long time, not eternity. Right, there you go. So basically, so Goloka Vrindavana is eternal, literally, and then forever, basically, is figurative. So when we say eternally, materially speaking, that we're talking figuratively, because eventually the universe will end 8 billion years. So if we stayed in the same body that kept regenerating the same cells for 8 billion years, we would just leave the body at the time the universe itself ended and go back to Goloka with Lord Brahmat or something at that point. We've got 4 billion years left to go of this universe. So yeah, you could live that long. It's possible. Usually most of us want to get out of here sooner than we want to get back to Goloka, much sooner. And many of the devas are actually envious because we're able to leave and transcend quicker than they are, because they have a lot of karma to live out and stuff as heavenly beings and stuff first. So yeah. So this has been a wonderful evening, my friends. Wonderful conversations. Thank you all for participating. Vrinda Dasa, Presley L. Benson, Nitai Nitai, Ishvaranandi, everyone else who has taken part. It's going to be definitely a long thing for me to go through all the original comments that were posted up, the original 64 or 65. And may you all be daily inspired in Krishna consciousness. All glory is to you, my friend, Vrinda Dasa, to you, Presley, to all my devotee friends who may arrive. And yes, tonight's going to be interesting. May you have very inspiring dreams and very inspiring devotional realizations tonight and on the morrow. And be sure to relay them to me if they're very interesting and pertain to myself, or if there's significant things that you think I should know about. And then we can make some new videos on those topics. All right, so Hare Krishna, and rest well, my friends. Hare Hare Bol.